for you. Choose wisely.
The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Any day could've been it. High school price on my head. Paranoid lying in my bed. Pray to God they don't turn my shirt cherry. I was lost, didn't know me. Introduced myself to codeine. 6 months was a dope fiend. Philly didn't even know things. There was a low me. Swear to God it would've hold me. Everything you ever told me. Everything you ever showed me. I forgot it. Caused me drama. I used to stay on one. Now I changed on them. The highs with the lows. That's life these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Get the highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. I just saw Jizzy got a plane. Guess that's what he meant when he said nothing was the same. Lately I've been grounded, energizing off the pain. Some things gon' change, I'm just soaking up the game. Through the mud, out the rain like I remember all those same nights. Now I'm on top, no stage fright. Now I'm on go, no brake lights. Hit the pedal, hit the engine roar. No fear like a matador. Breaking trends and I'm making more. Going up, climbing ladders more. I can't be stopped. Now I do what I want. Real, no front. All the way to the top. Highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleep in the while, I won't fall. No sleep in the while, I want it all. I keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers touring, I'm gonna set it down. Told my baby, meet me at the bank. Told my mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you can never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you, who are you? Who are you, who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop, pop 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Plate full, belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I want it all. I keep God first. I see evil, I evil when I converse. Like today say, this how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go, 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 go. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. I hit record a job, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a beat, bro. Whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since the fetus. Don't sleep on me, Therapeutic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go off like, whoa. That money clip us now, the new now looks like, whoa. Upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like, whoa, 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 whoa. On my own, no fixer. I'm gon' buy no picker. That I ate those they live for. Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats fun spitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. Full place, big stakes, my dinner. Flip that. Canal Street. Flip back. Last week. Old money. This week. New racks. Never buy 9 more. If I can't afford to gift wrap. Stunning in your foreign car. You keep buying rental tags. Ew. Heard you roll the other lean, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, that's pocket shit. Rubber bands on my arm, this is not for play. I put 20 on the crib while you cop a chain. I know they hated or love it. You know I love when they hate it. Last year was living basic. Haters on the other side. 3 up, read between the lines. Know I got some angels with me. Made it through some evil times. Late night on some demon time. Pour the Sprite, I need a line. I can't lock it, sweet line. Free time. Brainstorm, You can assume with your chains on. I can see none with the lights off. Cap, you been the main one. Coolin' when I got my mains on.
What would happen if most women had the spirit of the mongoose? A mongoose is a very unique and peculiar animal that actually protects its territory. But the most prevailing and thought-provoking thing about a mongoose is that a mongoose, when he's attacked by a venomous snake, will actually fall back and get back up through a spirit called resilience. In this world, when it comes down to the clinical, everything starts with the mind and animates with the spirit. But the mongoose is an animal that was similar to the women of the past. In the tenets of theology, it says, let the older women teach the younger women how to be women. But it appears that in this culture and in this country that when women try to hold other women accountable, they're often attacked or being called pygmies. There are two women that I've identified in this show that more or less exhibit or exude the spirit of the mongoose. And my number one guest that has been on my show in the past is Sweet Lulu Bean, that hails from the Khoisan culture of South Africa. South African women are more or less encapsulated, have been raised in cultures where they actually honor and respect their men. And I'm 100% convinced that when women honor and respect their men, they are able to more or less respect patriarchal norms. But because we live in a country where masculinity and masculine authority is not respected, many women have a hard time challenging or more or less falling in line with masculine men. And then there's another sister that I've identified from the American extract, Unsolicited Security Boss. She also has the spirit of the mongoose in that she does not personify how most Western women think. We're going to use this show as a barometer to teach young men that when they have women that are their cheerleaders and women that support them, then they can start the process of having a more stronger and vibrant community. But it's my belief that even with women like Sweet Lulu Bean and Sister Security Boss, I don't think in this lifetime we're going to see the community that was once prevalent in the past. So I want you guys to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show as I bring it to you live from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State. And we're going to be talking about the dynamics that exist between cultures that have family, as family is one of the 7 steps that a man must go through to become optimized. I want you guys to ask yourself the question, are American women cheerleaders? Do Western women have the spirit of the mongoose? Do you feel that you've been supported by women in your family, or do you feel like you have been emasculated? And do you feel that at least 20 to 40% of women actually had the spirit of the mongoose like Sweet Lulu Bean and Sister Security Boss? Would women and the culture and the community be better? You decide. And I need you to remember this. If it ain't 7, it ain't kosher. If it ain't kosher, it ain't right. There are 7 steps that a man must go through in order for a man to become optimized, and world travel and understanding female psychology, but also family is important for the efficacy of a man. Be well. Guys, we're about to start, and I want you guys to get your pens and paper ready. This is going to be a comprehensive show as we're going to ask ourselves the question, are Western women adapt to give men in America the virtues that they need in order to be women? To have families. Get your pens and paper ready. Let's get it. Bringing it to you live once again from the greatest state in the union, the Tar Heel State, where the topography is serene, pristine, and verdant green, where every day is Father's Day, and where manhood is part of hills and valleys, victories and failures. And whereas men, we don't agree on all things or ideologies, but tonight we come together as allies of a common cause only to dissipate once the crisis is over. Now listen, I'm about to drop some fire for your mind. But before I drop that fire, let's explore why we are doing the Manhood Chronicles. All right, we're about to have a powerful conversation on today, nonetheless. And the question remains is, are modern women best suited to give the American black man and all men in general the outcomes that they need? This show is a reflection of a show that I did in the past where I had Sweet Lulu Bean, which I called the agitator of male empowerment. But she's from a culture where women have been conditioned to honor and respect men. And guys, I did this show. I'm doing this show because we need to have women that have the spirit of the mongoose. There was a time that women had the spirit of the mongoose and they honored and respected their men and also the black men and their families. But we live in a time, guys, where men are not given the respect that they deserve. And because of that, many men have learned to defer power instead of demanding power. The spirit of the mongoose is an animal or a concept that I created because a mongoose is very resilient. It doesn't care what a venomous snake does. And it appears that many women in the Western world have the spirit of the serpent because they seek to destroy and they seek to more or less diminish the mental imprint of a man. But when you have women like Sweet Lulu Bean and Security Boss Unsolicited, they personify what the gospel say, let the older women teach the younger women how to be women. And in the family, you have to have what's called the man and the woman working together as a team in order to have something called community. And it appears, guys, that the community that we used to have is now not only dissipating, but when women like Security Boss Unsolicited try to give some of the younger women advice, there are some women that will accept it and there are some that will not. So I saw a show that I saw Security Boss do, and she did a great show, and I'm going to bring that show up. And then I want Security Boss to come on as I start this show, as she was talking about why women are actually operating in their masculine. So I'm going to critique this show, guys. I want you guys to listen because this show is going to be paramount to not only why women should let the older women teach them, but also why men should start demanding power instead of deferring power, because the deference of power has left our societies in the condition that it is. So I'm going to run this show. I'm going to critique, and then Security Boss, she's going to pop on. And then I'm going to run a show that I did with Sweet Lulu Bean from the Hoysian culture, where she's from a culture where the women are more or less conditioned to honor and respect their men. So guys, hold tight. I'm going to add this stream, and we're going to have
what's going on.
Hello.
We're going to have a conversation.
Everything's
That's
good.
my
How are
sister,
you all?
Sweet Security.
I'm doing good. About
What's
to
up, my friend? How you feel?
I'm good. Y'all have an outstanding show going on tonight. It's outstanding. It's just ladies. I got to tell y'all something. A lady is a lady amongst everyone. So the femininity question that's just what it is. A femininity is a woman being a lady. And it's not having the last word. It's not the ego. You guys have some serious egos. Y'all got to win and y'all got to stop. I promise you. Now, well, let me ask this question. I don't know how old you all are, but if you want to be married and you're over 30, you need to check yourself. I'm sorry. Y'all are beautiful women, but you're getting it wrong. All the fighting that you all do, got to have the last word, can't hear. That's not what men want.
And guys, listen how Security Boss Unsolicited dissected the whole concept of how some women think. She did a great job on the Lapeef show with Chicago Rilla, Lapeef, Anton, dissecting why sometimes our women operate in their masculine. Because they operate under the confines of the masculine, it will repel a very masculine man. Now listen, guys, I need you guys to share this content. It's about 17 people watching. It should be up to 50 to 100. I need you guys to share the content. And I'm going to bring Sweet Security Boss Unlimited on. We're going to have a dialogue about this show and why she came on. So she's actually popped in a minute, and we're going to chop up some comprehensive games. So keep listening, guys, real quick.
Not in a marriage relationship. It's not. Because women, ladies, are given a certain amount of wisdom in a relationship with a man, and they think differently from us. You may be right all day, every day, but if you cannot convey that message, you lost. Do you hear me? You have lost. You could be totally right. Kayla, everything you're saying may be absolutely right. And Anton might need a whole 24 hours to think about it and come back and say, you know what? Maybe she has a point. But if you can't allow him to have his place to think about it as a man, then you're wrong.
And see, guys, that's what we need. We need women like Security Boss Unsolicited. There was a time where we had the aunts and the grandmoms, the big mamas. They were the ones that channeled the conversation and held women accountable. But we live in a time now that when you hold people accountable, just like the gospel say, they won't love the truth. And while it appears that these women in general were receptive to Security Boss Unsolicited, many times a lot of women are not more or less open to speaking the truth in love. And because of that, they become saboteurs, guys, of their own demise. Many modern women are saboteurs of their own demise because they don't want to hear the wisdom of the elders. Shout out to my man Jason Phillips with a $10 super chat. Jason said, "Thank you for the program." And Security Boss Unsolicited and I are gonna have a conversation as I dissect this in a few minutes. She's gonna come on and she's gonna tell us why she did the show with Lapeef, Chicago Rilla, Anton, and them. Because there's a crisis in the world. And see, when men try to tell women what to do from right or wrong, they often bellow, "You hate black women. Your mama is black." That's the sentiment that a lot of black women say. Your mom is black or you hate black women. But the truth is, when you hear it from a sister that's telling our sisters to get their act together, then what is the response then? And so you can't have a community if you can't have an ear to hear what the elders are saying. And that's why I do these shows. And I agree with the Ingram experience and others. This challenge should have been way bigger than what it is currently. But sad that we live in a world where people don't more or less want the truth. So guys, share the content because Security Boss Unsolicited is here. She is the queen of trying to get these women on the right path as well as Sweet Lulu Beans. So hold tight. We're going to keep listening and breaking it down. All right. Security Boss, I don't know, it stopped. It froze for a minute. But you did this show. Tell the audience who you are, while this show was so important to you. We're trying to more or less educate women on the importance of being feminine, but also on the importance of being virtuous.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me and spotlighting that show that night. The
Right,
reason
right.
why I was actually on that show is because I actually listen to Lapeef weekly, and I love their shows. I love their topics, but it had gotten so difficult to actually hear and understand what was going on because of all the over talking,
Right,
all of the sometimes even the last word thing. It wasn't even on topic. It wasn't even someone trying to make a point. It was
right.
just, I'm gonna have the last word.
Mhm.
And it just got so irritating for me to even, sometimes I'd be like, stop, So I felt like, indeed, if they want to be married, then someone maybe should just mention it to them in a kind voice, not tearing them down, not trying to, beat them over the head or change them, just some way kind of help them see what they're doing and maybe think of it a different way and approach things differently. Because what I do know is I don't think young people or young women often even think about how men think or
Right,
that,
right.
that they're even different from themselves. They kind of feel like they're equal and, we think and do things alike, but it's just so different that I think that they needed to, the men are left brains. Women supposed to be right brains. They need to know that. They need to hear someone else say, even though they're talking to you and speaking to you and giving you another thought, they're not comprehending this the same as you might. So just back up, give them the space to be men. And, I'm not saying I got it all together. This has come from many years of focusing on my husband, learning him, reading books, putting in all the effort to be a good wife and to
Mhm.
be, in a marriage relationship that is successful. This took some, I had to be into it. Like I said, I had to be humbled. I had to, well, you haven't
Right.
gotten that part, but it took me, getting into this. It wasn't something I just learned overnight. Now, I often say my mother was a wife and we did not sit down and have these conversations about being a wife. I just watched her. And I think I heard you say, even when your wife is mad, she'll fix your plate.
Right.
I don't care what my daddy did. I mean, he could have went out and stayed out all night. He still had breakfast in the morning. And, I
Right.
used to
Right.
question it. I question that kind of stuff because I'm like, I'm not understanding right now. But
Right. 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 Right.
whatever he did not interfere with what
Mhm.
she was and who she was groomed to be.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Mhm.
I
But you
hope
know,
that answered your question.
but you know, it was the duty and the honor to serve. It was about service. It was about service. We talk about conditional femininity. That's what we talk about a lot. You talked about it on the Lapeef show. And conditional femininity appears to be the culprit of many modern women. Many want the benefits, security boss unsolicited, of traditional mores, but they're not willing to more or less go through the evolution of becoming the woman that a man needs them to become. And because of that, many women will be single and alone. I created a term synonymous, but not the same as Kevin Samuels. He talked about shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. But because I am the kosher clinician, I wanted to be fit and proper. And I created my own terminology based on cognitive dissonance. It's called deaf. They deny the evidence when you present them with the evidence. They become enraged when you present them with the evidence. They argue, do what's called ad hominem attacks, and they fight you or they flee, just like sometimes women do now when you give them the evidence. And you and I have had conversations, I'm security boss unsolicited, on the evolution of our current women. And we feel like it was that Gen X nexus when we begin to see the decline mentally and socially of so many men and women, but particularly a lot of our black women. You talk about the evolution that you went through as a woman. Tell the audience about the evolution that you went through and why that was so paramount. And before you do it, let me shout out my man James Turner. That's my homie. Shout out to my man James Turner for the $10 super chat. Kosher and security boss, let them get this work. and security boss definitely gave him the work. And I'm trying to get this thing back up because she was very judicious in her response. She's a Libra, she's a scale balancer. She was very judicious in her response. But in my mind, she exuded the power of what the gospel said, let the older women teach the younger women. Not saying she's old, but I had to qualify that. I had to qualify that. But my point is, her and I, we're Gen X's. And so some people see us as elders. I'm 50, I don't know her age, but she's a Gen Xer like me. So, I'm 50, but I still got swag. Don't get it twisted. I might be 50, but I still got that Leo swag. But I'm gonna try to pull this show back up, and I want you to break down what you was talking about, sis. Hold tight.
You are wrong. I hate to say it, ladies, but it's true. And if y'all want to be married, you got to check that. You cannot have the last word with these men. And if you think you can turn it on and off, meaning Anton's on the platform, but when I get home with my man, I'm different. That's not true. You're the same person. You are. But y'all are beautiful. And if you want that kind of life, you want to be married, you got to check it. Now, getting back to the pick me and the ladies with the ladies been talking SHIT about each other for the longest, especially if they think there's one in the crowd that's winning. The woman that's winning, y'all are putting her down, talking SHIT, trying to sleep with her man. And you know it, you've been doing it forever. That's why you don't have girlfriends. That's exactly why. That's what women do. That's what y'all do. It's true. If a whole bunch of girls get together, 2 or more, somebody's and one's winning. I mean, winning, got a great guy, have a good relationship, kind of putting her out there by herself. No, I'm being with my man tonight. She trying to get at him before so long. It's just how y'all operate. It's true. It's true. Now, it's just true. I know it. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Hopefully, we can get over it. Now, on the flip side of that, some of these pick-me's are red flags. I don't believe them. They're not genuine, and they're just trying to get a man. So
Let's talk about the evolution of the pick-me's. Let's talk about the evolution, Security Boss Unlimited, of this fake femininity movement. And let's talk about conditional femininity. Let's talk about that because that's a loaded question. But what's your take on these, what I call strains of femininity? Because as I told you, me and my wife have arguments, but when we have arguments, she don't stop cooking. She still cook. We can have a big argument, she'll still cook. But a lot of women now, have an argument, well, I ain't gonna cook. So it appears that to me that duty supersedes feelings. And then when a woman duty can supersede her feelings, then in my mind, she really loves that man. But what's your take on and what were you trying to convey from that short clip? And I'm gonna finish the whole clip out at some point. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to use myself for an example. I decided at 19 years old that I was going to be the type of woman that wore heels, that got my hair done, that wore makeup, and always went out very polished.
Mhm.
I decided that at 19 that I wanted to be that woman. Always needed to smell good. That was just who I was. And me alone, no man decided that.
Mhm.
So I was going to always be that person no matter what. My clothes were going to be ironed. It was going to smell good. The hair was going to be good. That
Mhm.
was that. The
Mhm.
next part is as I continued to grow up, that was who I was. So I wasn't going to lose that. That couldn't go anywhere. That was me. That was going to be my presentation. I
Mhm.
didn't put it on. It was just who I became. I decided that.
Right.
The second part was once I did, I mean, that was actually, or let me go back a little bit to that. Also, with that being that lady, I also decided that I wasn't going to indulge in a lot of different things. I wasn't going to get high. I wasn't going to drink liquor. I wasn't going to use a lot of curse words. I just didn't feel like that was me being a lady. So I didn't relate to that. So I became very standoffish. I didn't become very standoffish. I was standoffish
Mhm.
because I wasn't a part of the group. The group of ladies, they hang with the guys. They
Right.
got high with the guys. They
Mhm.
went to parties and drank with the guys. And I didn't do that. I was not that I found anything wrong with it back then. I'm just looking at it now and just saying to myself that I didn't do it. So I was a little bit of as a standoff.
Mhm.
So as I went on and got married, now I did go to the club older. When I got older, I went to the club, but there came a time when I said, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. And then I decided wanted to be married.
Mhm.
And then when I got married, there was some things about it I didn't understand. So the evolution of it is marriage is very serious. And I
Right.
think when we are younger, or the young women these days, they don't take it seriously. They kind of think it's just an extension of a relationship, boyfriend and girlfriend.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
it's not. I mean, you get married and the next day you kind of ask your spouse, did something change? And your first thought might be a no,
Mhm.
but it really is a huge change if you're doing it on godly principles. If you're just living together, maybe not. So I started to then, because my husband has been an alpha male entrepreneur ever since the moment I met him, even if
Right.
he didn't have a business.
Right. Yes, ma'am. Right.
Okay, but I grew up with workers.
Mhm.
My dad and mom were workers. They had good jobs. They worked for good companies, Duke Energy, school system. That's what they did, and
Mhm.
they worked, never missed a day. So they had good work ethics and very good morals, and that's how they raised me. But to marry a man that didn't have a job was like, huh? What you
Mhm.
gonna do? How's this
Mhm.
gonna work?
Mhm.
So I allowed him, and this is no joke, y'all. I allowed him to come into my life, but I had to actually cling to him and leave my mother and father
Right,
because
right. I like that. Right, right.
I
And that's
had
the whole
to.
point. Right.
I
And
had
and
to.
and that's the way it should be. There should be a cleaving to your man because when you leave your family, you're under the authority of your father. I mean, of your husband. But I think security boss unsolicited that many of our women have not seen masculine authority. They have not been conditioned to respect black men, and because of that, when you speak, when Sweet Lulu Bean speak, you ladies exude a greater level of respecting masculine order because you saw it. Many of our women have been conditioned not to respect men. They don't respect masculine authority, and it's caused a lot of dysfunction. As a licensed therapist, I did something when I did the show with April Mason. It talked about a genogram. And a genogram is a chart that's used to measure dysfunction, physical health, abuse, and trauma. And I'm going to do a show soon talking about the unconscious pathologies of April Mason as well, because a lot of our women are actually marinated in trauma and they're not even aware of it. And it's led to an ego defense mechanism called repression. They actually have repressed some of the things that they're dealing with to the point that they are sabotaging themselves and they're sabotaging their relationships. To the 26 people that are listening, guys, please share the content. Share this content with at least 5 to 10 people. Help me get this channel to 3,000. Shout out to my man, the Ingram Experience. Go check him out. Miss Parker's Back to Basics. Go check her out. And I agree this channel should definitely been moved along a lot further. But it appears, Miss Security Boss Unsolicited, when we speak the truth, a lot of times the truth is not received, in fair favor. What's your take on that? Because it appears that these women receive you for the most part, but the body language was like ambivalent. It's like I'm listening, but. So, what was your take on when you were giving these women some wisdom from the elders?
So let me say this, Kosher. What I've noticed, and just listening to you also, um, women and men, but we're talking about the women right now. In their defense, they're not being taught.
Right.
And if someone were to instruct them or teach them or make them recognize the benefit of men, then I think it would be a lot different. Mostly what they're doing is kind of being attacked about what is true, and it's just not being received. I
Mhm.
happen to think that one or two of those women on the Lapeef panel are, wifey material or can be considered feminine. They just may be socially immature and just not
Right.
ready for it.
Right.
But
Right.
with,
Right.
but with guidance, they will be. But again, if they're not experiencing it, not going through it, or no one is at telling them what not to do, then they're not gonna receive it well. Nobody wants to be told that you're wrong or rejected when you're
Right.
just, you're on a platform and you're just being rejected every night because of what you're doing or because of your opinion. No one is saying, you know what, you got a great opinion. If you delivered it differently, more people could hear you. You
Right.
know, we're mostly saying, "You out of control, just shut up." Basically, that's what we're saying. I mean, because
Mhm.
it's just gotten to that point. So, to the defense of some women, of course, they haven't seen it, but even with me, there was no conversation. My mother didn't sit down and tell me how to act. I watched her. So, I just think now most women are being trained to be independent thinkers because that's all you got, and they think independently. For whatever reason, they don't need or they feel like their opinion is just as good as the male counterpart that they're speaking to. And
Right, right, and they don't understand that with men, the greatest thing that you can give a man is respect. And I get so tired of these tired tropes, security boss unsolicited, about black men being the adversaries of black women. Black men never had the power to oppress black women. We were both mules. We were both subjects under the laws of Jim Crow racism. So when I hear these, they're always saying, my my granddad, he beat grandmama. It's always from the negative. But we don't talk about the good black men in your family that was loyal to their wives or they provided. We always default to the negative. Why is that in your opinion? Then I'm gonna finish playing this clip. Why is that?
oh, I have no idea why we default to the negative, but we spotlight only negative behavior because there
Mhm.
are so many women out there right now that are traditional women. Not perfect now. They still have to find a husband to mate and to become one with.
Mhm.
But men are overlooking them because they're looking for what is it? What's it fit, fine, and I don't even know. But they're only observing the exterior and not getting into or allowing these women who carry a certain amount of morals with them to speak to them long term. I mean, I even heard, after the third date, if you haven't done it yet, had sex yet, then they may move on. I'm here to tell you, a woman who is a traditional woman may not have sex by the third date.
No, I
Not,
agree with that. I agree with
not because
that.
she doesn't like you. It's just that they've been taught that that's your virtue.
Right, right. I agree with that. I
You
agree with
gotta
that.
hold on to it. Now, I'll say this too. My husband and I were married within 6 months
Mhm.
because we were not gonna be fornicating. I knew, you come to a point where and we did it. But,
Right.
you know, but I'm just saying today's society is very different. And, you know, I just don't want someone traditional women are out there and we do just spotlight the bad behavior. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly why because, well, no, we already know bad behavior has an appearance of winning, you know, um, has that appearance of winning. Now, what is it winning? I have no idea what it's winning, but this has the appearance of women. I don't know why why we do that, but there are a lot of traditional women out there, and I wish men would take a step back and just reevaluate sometimes what exactly they're looking for in order to find that good woman and not have her be overlooked. Because I think you said this best.
Mhm.
Well, you said it 7 to 1. There are 7 men, excuse me, 7 women to 1 man.
Right.
So he does have an opportunity to select a few, but if he's selecting the wrong ones initially, by the time he got to traditional one, he too is spoiled, you
Right.
know.
Yeah. According to the book of Isaiah, the time will come where there'll be 7 women to 1 man. And if every woman got married, according to some prognosticators, there'll still be 2 million women left without a husband. And so I agree with that. I'm old school traditional. Listen, the man in me probably want to sleep with a woman in 3 dates, but because I'm a traditionalist, I'm old school. I'm an old school romantic. I got that Leo swag. So if a woman giving me her body in 3 weeks, I don't know if I'm gonna take her serious with my wife. That's
Right.
just me. I mean, now some guys that they want to have sex with a woman fast, they might expect it, but I don't necessarily expect it if I see her as a wife. If I see her as somebody to have fun with, then maybe. But if I see her as my potential wife in 3 weeks, I know times are different, but I'm just old school. I'm old school like you. I grew up different. And
But you know what,
right,
kosher, women are followers,
mhm,
and traditional women too want a man.
right,
And they may do whatever's requested because they feel like they're gonna receive that man.
mhm,
So that's what I mean, it's a very hard call because I do think, women are followers. If a man is showing interest and they're sharing that they like us, they're talking about a future, and I just think a lot of women, traditional women, will get aboard and do whatever it is they're asked to do and find out later that they made a mistake or it just wasn't maybe a good fit. But guess what? It's too late now.
right. And I understand where the men are coming from. Ingram experienced that there are plenty of women to choose from, but very few meet the qualification of wife material. I agree with that in whole. I think you are a dime breed security boss unsolicited. I think you're a dime breed. And then some guys feel like, why should I have to wait over 3 days if she gave it to Raekwon and Man Man? She didn't make them wait. So why do I have to wait? Because let me tell you something. What I've learned with women, women know within 5 minutes they want to have sex with you. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't agree.
You don't agree?
No.
Okay, so tell me why it's more nuanced. Do you feel like listen to what I'm saying? I said I didn't say they would have sex with a man, but they know within a certain amount of time, just on his physical appearance, whether or not he could get it. She might not sleep with him, but she might say, you know what, he can get it, but I'm not gonna act on it. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but I still disagree.
Okay, that's fine. Go ahead. Tell me why.
I do understand what you're saying about the physical attraction,
Right.
but it's a lot of things that go into it. You can have a good looking man, but he might not smell good. Or you might
Okay.
have a good-looking man that shows up goofy or, I'm more of an intellectual person. I don't like game. You can
Right.
maybe have
Right.
a good-looking man that's really nice to you and just
Mhm.
showers you. That's a turnoff to me. I don't want that. I want a simple man.
Okay.
I want
Okay.
a simple man with manly qualities.
Right.
Now
Right.
now your next question is if you saw that, would you wanna sleep with him in 5 minutes? I still would be testing the waters, especially now. I
Right.
still would be sitting back, "Is this real?" "Is this really real? Is this his game?" Because that was one of the things I told my husband when I met him. He was different because he was so simple, and what I
Mm.
mean by simple, he was just whatever it was, it was. It was just no game. He just came very simple to me, and it just seemed like it fit. Now, 5
Right.
minutes, no. 24 hours, yeah, because I talked to him probably about 24 hours the 4th or 5th time I talked to him. So, after he won my brain, if I heard some people say, then I did know that I would sleep with him. But it was
Well. Right.
none of that.
Well, maybe you're the sapiophile or they call him a sapiosexual. I guess what I'm saying, when you met your husband, he was smelling good, he was looking good, it
Right.
was simple, but
Mhm.
he's big, this big man. Your husband's a big man,
Yes.
and I know that when you met your husband, I'm not saying that you said, well, yeah, he could get it, but my point is, women have met men, and within 5 minutes, just off physical, not the intellectual, not this, they said, wow, just off the physical, they're sexually attracted to him. I'm not saying they're going to act on it, but they's like, wow, if he checks off all the marks, Yeah, he can get it. That's what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. Okay, yeah. I would say yes to that.
Right.
I would say yes to that. And then I also hear that what you're saying is don't even well, I didn't hear you say it, but someone else said, don't even date a man that you wouldn't sleep with. I kind of agree with that too. If you don't feel like you are able to procreate with him or have sex with him, why even bother? Yeah, I agree with that. That does make sense.
Right,
But I
right,
just
right.
don't think you know what, Coach, it's pretty hard because I think about so many different things for this modern day. You know, for me, sex is death. You know, you sleep with the wrong person, you might die.
That's
It's just
true.
a little bit, back in the day. Oh, the Ingram experience. To answer your question, I was married 26 years, November the 14th.
That's a blessing.
So I've been married over half of my life.
Mm,
Yeah.
that's a blessing. Same as me.
Yeah. So,
Same as me.
but listen, I was no angel. You know, I did what I did before I got married, and then I said to myself, "I'm done. It's time to be married." So that's kind of weird too. So,
Well,
I'm just
well,
being honest.
well. You're very honest, and I respect your honesty because I am too. There are some men that say if a woman is not a virgin, she doesn't necessarily deserve the virtues of having to go through this long courtship. I can see that too,
Yeah.
because a lot of guys are saying, why should I give a woman that's not traditional at the core all the virtues of a? Because see, women of the past were taught your virginity is your virtue. Save that for your husband. Being wife ready is your virtue. Being industrious is your virtue. Keeping your body fit is your virtue. Those things were the virtues that men look for. Men are the arbiters of chivalry. We determine what chivalry is. We determine what kind of women that we want. And a lot of guys are saying, why am I waiting to give this woman all of this when she gave it to Raekwon and Man Man for free? Raekwon Man Man just got it off swag. So a
Well,
lot of guys, yeah, go ahead.
if that's the case, that's a red flag. That's not something that's real. I agree with you. Anytime you can pick up on a red flag, believe it and run.
Mhm.
I'm not telling you to fake it or, accept anything that's less than what you have already written out to
Right,
be
right.
your ideal woman. I'm just saying if you're gonna have the list, stick to the list. Don't because obviously we can't pretend that these BBLs ain't working. These big butts and breasts and small waist, that's working. It's
Oh, it's
working.
working. Right. It's
So
working.
let's not pretend that it's not working.
It's
That's
working in the
working.
short term. Like they said, these hoes be winning, but they're not really winning because they're not building legacy and men don't have husbands. They might have a lot of bodies, but they don't have a husband.
Okay, Coach, I think I told you this, and I don't know if I said it today, but we used to always do marriage classes and couples classes and things like that. We actually used to teach youth, me and my husband. And someone once told my husband, because he's really big on the fit and feminine, right? I've been an exerciser, an athlete my whole life. I just love that's what I do. But
Yes, ma'am.
listen,
Right.
someone told him that a high class escort could fool him because he is so much on the appearance. And a high class escort is coming in fit and feminine. She coming right. She's saying it exactly. She's rubbing the bald head. She cooking the breakfast. She's doing whatever is necessary to get that money from that man. And I don't know how long it would take an individual to recognize it, but that's the state that we're in. That's the BBL, high class. I'm not saying everybody got a BBL. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving you the comparison on how women can fool you. A high class escort. And then he sit there and thought about it. He was like, gosh, you might be right. Because, we all looking for the quote whore to come in looking a certain way. But not all the time. They prim and proper. So then what do you do?
You know, and I know that they are chameleons. That's why guys are so cautious now, because guys know that women can be very duplicitous. Guys
Right.
know that women will become what you want them to become to get into the relationship, and then they pull the mask off once you say I do. And part of it is part of evolutionary science where a woman, it's called survival of the fittest. She want to get the best of men. So she is going to try to do everything in her power to get that man in a relationship. But if that woman has true feminine demure and true feminine virtue, she's going to be who she is regardless of the circumstances of the situation. And
I
that's the
agree.
difference. That's the difference, and that's what you were talking about. Let's finish looking at this clip real quick, sis. I know you got to go, and I want you to keep breaking it down.
No, I'm fine, but yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Hold tight.
You're right about that, Kayla. I agree with that also. I do. Um, but to go on with the statement of the pick me just to do all this to get a man, men do need women and women do need men. So that's the pushback. Women hate for men to say they don't need them, but I believe they do. I just think that some of it is a little bit of manipulation and, just now on YouTube, a talking point. So
Security boss, you think that we need women?
I do. I do think you
Why
need
is that?
women, not
Why
for
is that?
survival purposes. I mean, y'all can
In a
build.
general sense.
I think that's the way you were made. I think that for me, I go back to the godly principles. We were made to be together, and that's my thoughts.
So I mean, but if we translated it into real life everyday scenarios, right?
Okay.
Why do we need women?
For me, Anton, it still goes back to the way we think, the way you think. I think in order to be complete in your manhood, you need a woman.
You think so?
I do. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Hmm.
What makes you the leader if it's only a bunch of men?
And we talked about this, security boss. When it comes down to utility, because men are builders, we don't necessarily need women for that.
I agree.
And you agree with that. And I see where Anton was at, because I do agree. I agree with you and Anton. Y'all just talking in different angles.
Right.
But I do believe that I've said in the past that men and women were optimized to be synchronized. They were optimized to be synchronized. That more or less talks about the phallus and the vagina. We're synced. And so men and women are at their best when they work together. The gospel even said that it was not good that man be alone. Adam was alone. He was alone, but he was never lonely. But he was a better version if he had a woman to help build his kingdom. But the sad thing is, most women don't come into relationships ready to build. They see themselves as the prize automatically without earning that. And I'm going to do a show, guys, at some point called The Return of the Prize Catchers. Because a woman is a prize only if that man deems her to be a prize. She could be a prize in her head. But if that man does not see her as prize worthy, and because so many of our men have not been taught how to demand what they want, then Water seeks its own level. Shout out to BJS Ipmore and shout out to Ron Wills, but water seeks its own level, which basically means if that woman is a one and that man is a one, if that man does not see her as prize worthy, she can do everything she wants to do. She's not going to get that man. And because women are naturally hypergamous, and all hypergamy is not bad because there's kosher hypergamy and carnal hypergamy, she still got to go through certain levels to get the man that she wants. So she could be the prize in her head to simps, because a lot of times simps will gas a woman up. But to that top tier man, she's not the prize, because that man has many options. And so, as the gospel said, the bride prepared herself for the bridegroom. She was prepared to come in to serve that man. What's your take on that? And we're going to finish this clip. What's your take on that, sis?
No, you are. I agree with what Anton just said or was saying, and he explained to me. See, when I'm speaking to people, or in this case, Anton, I'm thinking from a successful marriage point of view.
Right.
I'm not thinking about people who may have codependency issues or things of that nature. So what the message he was trying to convey to me was that he didn't want men to think that they needed women to be the best form of themselves. Well, I should say that differently. To be whole within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be whole first, and then the woman should complete that.
Right.
That's my thoughts.
Right.
So he explained it to me. So I agreed with that. So I agree with you both that, and I always say this, and I get a little pushback with this, but I say women want men that want them. Women a lot of times are pretending to be in control and, I don't want this, I won't have this, and I won't do this. But I think that if that man is being confident, I don't care who that man is. I'm gonna say it just like that. I don't care who the man is. If he's confident enough, he can get a woman. And it may not be a one. It could be, I don't know. He may not be a high value. I just think if he's confident enough in what he's doing, and sometimes we label them as Pookie and Ray Ray, they can get that woman. And it may be any woman. So those are my thoughts. So I'm agreeing with you,
Right. Right, right.
Than
No, I feel you, sister. No, and I know you are. I'm actually this complimented. Guys, to the 27th that are watching, please share the content. This was a great show. Security Boss Unsolicited is my sister. You know, she's a good sister. I love her. I love what she's trying to do. She's an honest sister. She's a traditional woman from the old school. And listen, my heart goes out to the Gen Xers, I mean, to the millennials and the zennials. I know the times are different. So my heart goes out to you guys. You guys have a different situation. You know, Security Boss and I were in a time where the family was more intact and community was more intact. So it would be remiss of me to minimize the struggles that millennials and zennials go through as it relates to the modern woman. So I'm very empathetic to you guys. Guys, please share the content and shout out to my young lion. I call him the young lion. Shout out to my man before the billions. Thank you, sir, for the $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. And we're going to keep listening because you made some very great points on this show. Keep listening, guys.
which oh,
It's a lag in my computer. Hold tight. Hold tight. It'll pop on. It'll pop on in a minute. Can you hear me? Is it running?
yeah, I can hear you.
I'm gonna let it run because every time I stop it, it'll catch on, then it'll stop. But what are you gathering from the conversation? There's a lot of good comments that people are saying. Then the next time I run it, I'm just gonna let it run because every time I stop it, it's a lag. Hold tight. Let me hit it again because I want you to finish talking about what you were talking about because you had some excellent points. I saw the show last night. I saw the show and I said, "Wow, this sister definitely got the spirit of the mongoose." When you hear me talk about the spirit of the mongoose, how does that resonate within your psyche?
Well, you had to explain it to me, but I think it rings pretty true. But I do have to say, anytime I say something, or every time before I say something, I always ask God to use me. So it's not per se me. I'm always asking to be used.
Mhm.
So hopefully, whatever comes out, it's landing in the correct place. I don't pretend to be. I'm always asking for guidance.
Right,
When I'm
right.
on these platforms and somebody asks me something, you can go back and look at all my videos. It's kind of funny. Even about a year ago, I'm so consistent with what I'm saying, even almost using the same words. I'm like, dang, I didn't know it.
Mhm.
So I'm always asking to be used and whatever he puts on my heart to say, whenever I do, I try to always say it and not question it. And again, though, sometimes I do wonder and sometimes I fight with it because I'm like, okay, this is not going to be received well. But then I just say, well, I got to do it anyway. Can't even walk away. You know, you can't even walk away. You have to go ahead and just say whatever it is that is on your heart to say.
You talk about your evolution as a woman, and I met your husband by voice, and he sounds like he's like me. He's a masculine man, they got that Leo swag, but you talk about your evolution as a woman. How does your husband shape you into the woman that you are now? And what would you tell the young women that are listening, but also the young men, how they should more or less demand what they want from a woman?
Well, Coach, this is kind of crazy because I feel like I didn't before, but now on the YouTube plate in the YouTube place, I feel now that it's crazy because my husband made me the boss. I am the face of our company.
Mhm,
Security Boss is a real thing. I'm a co-owner of a corporation,
mhm.
and my husband made me the face of that business because
Right,
minority women are winning.
right.
But I didn't know the word boss carried so much negativity.
It
So,
does, right.
he didn't know either. For us, it's just like, this is who you are, this is what you do. But, I always say in my business, when I do manage and instruct men, mostly men, they don't see my energy or they don't take my energy as contrasting. They actually receive it as, I'll do whatever she says. It's funny, they actually say that. They actually say, they tell chief, I'm captain and he's chief. They'll tell chief, I can't tell her no. I'm he it's just so funny. So it's not even though I am the boss, I am the captain, they still receive it as feminine energy. And I still
Well,
get things done.
but see, this is what I love about your situation. Your husband ordained you, but you're still under the guidance of your husband. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Absolutely.
And see, that's the difference. You got a lot of these so-called boss chicks, but they're not under the authority of a man. Do you
Right.
see the difference?
I
Your
do.
husband ordained you and gave you that role, but
Right.
he's the you're the captain, but in my mind, the chief is higher than the captain.
He
You're just
is,
an
definitely.
offshoot of your husband's operation, but you're still serving your husband. But a lot
Right.
of women that have that title, they don't serve a man. They believe in egalitarian relationships where they're one. And that's the
Right.
difference with a lot of relationships and women now. They have been taught to be egalitarian, and they want traditional benefits when it's only beneficial to them, not as it relates to the benefit of the man running his program. And that's why so many young men are frustrated, security balls unsolicited. They're frustrated because how can women on one end talk about godliness and dominion? And the gospel clearly says that the woman was made for the man, and that woman is the glory of man, as man is the glory of God. I didn't say it, the gospel said it to the women that are Christians. But then when it comes down to them following out the mandates of the gospel, then all of a sudden now they're modern. And
Right.
that's why it's called a schizoid effect. It's a splitting of the mind. And that's why guys are so frustrated, because they want women like Ted Dependent and somebody to love you back. Men want cooperation and peace. And
Right.
that's why I do these shows. My job is to help men get the solace that they need. I've had so many men come to me for non-diagnostic consultations. I'm helping a lot of black men behind the scene, because I'm trying to teach men when they learn to love themselves and learn to demand power, they're going to get the outcomes that they want. Because you know, Security Boss Unsolicited, and I know that women only respect power and your strength. And your husband is a masculine man. And
Right.
I'm going to guess, because you do have you're a very educated woman and intelligent. But I think you will run over a weak man. I don't think you would do it intentionally.
I don't know.
Do you think you would, or you don't think so? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how. I don't really know what a weak man looks like. I mean, when you say that,
Okay,
I don't know.
right. Because you've
Um,
always seen strength, right?
I don't want no dumb man. Is a weak man a dumb man? I don't know. I mean,
Well, well,
I could
well,
not exist with a dumb
right.
man. No.
Right. So the combination of a strong man is a combination of physical strength and mental dexterity. It's a combination of all. I think because you are intellectual, intellect means more than you than anything. I think your first they'll laugh, because you are Libra. Libras are very intellectual. So if a man was a hobbit but he was an intellectual, I think you would like that man. Am I right or wrong? If that man was 5'6" but he was an intellectual, I think you still would like that man.
I think so too. I don't think it I just that's what I'm saying. I don't know when we say weak men, I don't know what that really means. But let me tell you something. I don't care. I think if I would have married a man, I would have encouraged him to do as much as he could, no matter what. No matter,
Mhm.
even if he was lax in some areas or didn't know some things or whatever it was. I feel like I would have been the motivator. I feel like I would be the one pushing him.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I just think that's kind of where I fit for whatever reason.
So
You
you
know,
sound like a natural cheerleader. You are
oh,
a
yeah,
natural
I
cheerleader.
am. I
You're a
mean, that's
natural
what I
cheerleader.
do daily. I do
Mhm.
that daily in my own personal business. I
Mhm.
have
Mhm.
young men come in all the time,
Mhm.
child support issues, gosh, you name it, don't have a driver's license, been caught up with police for just stupid reasons. And they're scared to death. They're not gonna tell me they're scared, but they don't wanna face that whatever's happening next because they just don't know. I will take my time to walk them through what needs to be done. And I'd be like, look, kick down that door. Go get your driver's license. Don't be afraid. Drive legally or don't drive.
Mhm.
I try to make everybody accountable.
Mhm.
And weak or not, I'm gonna hold you accountable. I'm gonna hold you to some level of accountability. And I think when you do that, that changes people. You know,
No,
I
no,
just
no, no doubt. I agree with that. Whole time I'm trying to finish playing this. Hold tight, sis. Hold on.
okay.
All right, hold on.
Well, the thing about it is that, see, when I say we think we need a woman, I'm talking about being in a relationship or a marriage with a woman,
Okay.
right? I think it's a nice to have. I think that it adds value, but it's like anything else, right? I was gonna be awesome whether I was married or not. I was gonna fulfill a purpose whether I was married or not. And so, my drive to be successful and to add value into this world, which is to, leave it in a better space had I not been here, was the thing that I was going to do regardless of whether or not I was going to align with a woman or not. It had no bearing on me whatsoever.
So
I
does that only apply, Anton, for men?
Yes.
Okay, so women don't have purpose outside of men.
I think that women's purpose largely, and I'm speaking for the majority, I'm not speaking for, the anomaly. There's always going to be some people that fall outside of that box. But I think that largely women's purpose on this earth is to support the men.
But do they have purpose?
Men's purpose is to conquer, build, and to take over the world. And women's purpose is largely tied to the men that they align themselves with.
Anton,
everything revolves around us.
I agree
everything.
with that.
I do agree with what you're saying, and I do think that you would have been fine in on your purpose. I just think that having a wife and being in a marriage relationship made you better.
I agree. I don't think that. Listen, I agree with you that it probably did make me better. I don't disagree, not one bit. But my point is, but it goes back to the original question. I don't need a woman.
No, I don't. No, not for survival. I don't think either gender needs for survival, but I think they operate in completeness when they're together.
I agree. They operate best when they're together and they understand their roles.
Yes,
I agree.
Totally. And it actually fulfills the total purpose of us being here when they're together. I do agree with you. Now, Kayla, I see so many similarities. I used to say the same thing that you just said. Is my only purpose to be married? I used to hate that. But I had to pray about that. And I definitely had to learn my husband and my role and all of that for it to make sense to me. But it's bigger than that. When you are in a marriage relationship, the purpose of being a wife is greater. It's more than just cooking and cleaning. And also you kind of fit in that relationship where you're needed. You know, it goes further than that. If you need to be the financier, you are that person. But you and your husband, you come up with that plan. You know, you kind of become one and you decide, or you all both decide together where you fit. It could be so many different things. It doesn't have to be. I mean, I know people see it such a narrow thing as being just cooking and cleaning. Your husband could be the chef. You may not ever have to cook. That may be where he feels good. You may be the person that, well, some say the idea person and you have the closer. You may be the closer. That could be where you fit in that relationship. It's not that simple. It's who you mate with. So that would be your purpose. It's all about finding and getting it right that one time, though. And you can't do that with resistance. It's a humbling thing to be married. It's no longer about you.
I love
security
that.
boss.
I love that.
Hey,
you look like you got a podcast. Where can we find you at?
You know what? I've managed to have 3 since the last time I talked to you all. But right now it's Security Boss Unsolicited. And I also have a Rich Auntie. My Rich Auntie podcast is for those basically 30 and under. I'm getting to that next generation who wants to be married. And Anton, they don't think the Black culture is trash. They want to be married.
There's so much trash.
It is. They realize it, but they're trying to turn it around. I'm dealing with influencers.
You gotta burn it. You can't turn it around. You got to burn it and start over.
Yeah.
Well, we're doing our best, but I'm talking to them because if they have a lot of influence, then they can speak to a lot of other people, a lot of young people, and we can make a difference.
I got you.
You see what we old folks are doing, right?
I love you. I think that you're one of the most awesome people ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you're dope. I absolutely adore you. You know that.
Thank you. So, JR, I have something to say to you, and I've been fighting with this because I don't want this to come off wrong, but your last thing about overstepping boundaries, and I pray that this lands in the right place. But I even wrote it down, so listen to this. I want to tell you, JR, your silence is powerful. Don't allow anyone to pull you out of it. And I hope that finds you in a good place.
Okay.
And I hope I didn't overstep my boundaries.
Oh, no, you're good. I don't take
right.
it personal.
Okay. Well, it's a good thing actually, but I want you to think about it.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. I can't make no promises. I mean, I might turn up every now and then. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Well, sometimes that's necessary because you are the man in charge. So just think about what I'm saying. You're very powerful. You're very powerful in your silence, and it's kind of one of those things when you allow someone to pull you out. It's just you become equal, and you're not equal.
All right, I'm gonna sleep on that one. I appreciate that.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right,
Thank
thanks,
you so
security
much.
boss.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Auntie.
So security boss, what would you say was when you more or less break that show down? That show did very well. There's a young lady that actually I saw it from it. It got about 20,000 views, so you did a very good job. But when you think about cerebrally about how that show went, what would you give it from a rating scale from an A to B? Would you say it was well taken? Do you think the women are going to take it to heart, or do you think it's going to go to one ear and go out the other?
Well, I actually saw it. I saw it displayed like maybe the next Thursday, where Kayla actually began to present herself in the physical more as a lady. She was very poised, didn't argue as much. I felt like she listened to what I said. Now, she's not going to be perfect at it, or she may not even accomplish it that soon. It's something that you have to consciously work at to do different. But first, you have to admit that you had that kind of issue. But of course, by midway show, Anton and Chicago Rilla, whoever it was, pulled her out. And she reverted back to what she knew the best. But
Right.
I think as it's showing itself. So if you can see it, if you can take a moment for the young ladies, if you could take a moment and see that you're actually doing what I said, then I think they can change if they want to. But like I told you earlier, I think a lot of it is just being socially mature enough to even handle somebody doesn't think I'm right.
Right. I think it's being socially mature, but also being socially conditioned with the admonition of the elders is what makes it even more sustainable. I like what Anton said. I've always said, I don't think we'll see this revival in our lifetime, security boss. I don't see it. Not in our lifetime, I don't see
Well,
it in our lifetime.
I hear what you're saying, but not everybody, I'm not gonna make a comment like that. There's so many people around me that are married, that got young married and been married 25, 30 years. It's all well, you in the South, you should see this. It's a lot of us that are married and are couples just like yourself and me. So when people say, people are not getting married anymore and all these women, modern women are not doing this, it's like, wow, there's a whole nother world out there. This is what I say. My world is so small because people around me do what we do. So, and it's a lot of us been married forever, first time husbands, married in their 20s, some straight out of high school, some straight out
Right.
of college. So it's just, we're not done. I mean, we have children, mine didn't do what I'm doing, but there are some out there that made it through. They penetrated the brains, and the ladies, the young girls are being married, and the young men are marrying their girlfriends. I got a friend right now. His sons, both of them, they were twins. They married at about 21, both of them, and him and his wife married at about 19. So, and they're still together. First, and I'm saying, not saying it's perfect. Everybody has problems. A marriage is what you make it, and it's going to be some work. But it's first you need to understand that this is for real thing, and this is what we're doing. It's not taken lightly. And you just got to make it work. I don't really know why people again flake out during marriage. I mean, there could be some deal breakers, and I think all that should be discussed in the beginning. But I just think you'll find issues with anybody. But if you got a list, stick to it. And if those things that are on your list are deal breakers, don't compromise on your list going in. Don't do it.
Well, I think the boomer women more or less seduced our women into the pathology that we have now, to the point that the Gen X women ran with it. And you, I think, are a relic of the past. There are a lot of sisters like you that think that way. They're trying to do the right thing. So kudos to you. But I think the newer generation of women have never really seen true traditional families. They don't think that they should go into a relationship to serve. You got to understand, a lot of these women are going to liberal colleges where
Yep.
they've been conditioned. Right, they've been conditioned to think, security boss, that if I serve a man, I'm a slave. They always go back to the Mister. Mister. It's always like, April said it indirectly, but it's always this painting of black men in a negative light, like we were abusive. We want you to be barefoot and pregnant. You can't have a voice. It's always the man fault. There's no introspection. There's no internalization. And so a lot of guys respect you, but also a lot of men are saying that you are a microcosm of the past. You're a microcosm of the past, and you're optimistic, and I'm optimistic, but at the same time, I'm very realistic. And CGLA said this, and he's right. Women will play the tradition after they have that 304 out. They will start to say, "I'm born again, celibate, etc." After they have traveled hard down the sex highway in serial dating. So based on what he's well, hey, in therapy, like Black Ram said, we don't lie in therapy. And basically what he's trying to say is that after they've had their fun, many of them, then all of a sudden I love the Lord and I want to settle down, And what God's is saying, what am I getting in return? What am I getting in return? Because women of the past, what they brought to the table, and listen, I understand people can be redeemed. I'm not knocking nobody for that. I understand folks make bad choices. But masculine men are wired to want women. We understand you're human, but a lot of fun, a lot of guys don't want a chick that had a lot of fun, and that's subjective. So when men, what a man got 40, 50, 60 years ago was a woman that was mostly a virgin or either she didn't have a lot of fun, no children, and she was wife ready. And I like something that you said. You said, I came in my marriage ready to serve my husband.
Yeah.
A lot of these women don't believe in service. They look at you like you crazy. And I'm going to tell you why. April Mason talked about it. And even though I think she got some unconscious pathologies, she talked about it. The basic things are giving a man a plate. A lot of women see that as a negative. Security boss. A plate, that's why I use Allen Iverson. He said practice. We talking about practice. And so I'm saying a plate, we're talking about a plate. And Allen Iverson understood that practice for him was not necessary. A lot of women feel that the practicing of feminine demure is not necessary. And they don't feel like they have to practice to get the kind of men that they want. So men are saying, you know what, the hell with it. Like my friend Dr. Ron Neal said that the future is Latina. And I came back from Brazil and I'm doing a show. I got some production going on. And those women are just conditioned to be traditional. It doesn't mean that they have not been influenced by Western thought. But just like Sweet Lulu Bean was talking about, she's from the Hoysian culture of South Africa. Those women are conditioned to be feminine and to serve their men. And it appears to me that women that are raised in traditional patriarchal cultures tend to be more respectful of masculine authority and expectations. Just like I was talking to a young lady and she said, if my man asks me something to do, I obey my man. Now, if you tell a woman in this day and age, I obey my man, they look at you like you crazy. You got women right now, security boss, when you use the word honor and obey, they see that as a negative. But these are the same women that say they love the law. They say, I love the law. He heard my cry. These are the same women that say they love Jesus. But if you look at the gospel say in the book of Titus, women, wives, obey your husbands. Obey. But you can't tell women, the church don't even talk about, you can't tell modern women obey your husband because they have been conditioned to see the man as the enemy. Anytime we talk about men, guys, it's always from the negative. Men are always seen as the boogeyman. So they want to assault a man, they'll let them do what they want to do. But in actuality, women only respect power and strength. I said a lot, but tell me what you think about what I said, Sid.
I agree with you, but I do think that what I'm learning actually is that a lot of men actually like these modern women. I had a man on my show a couple of weeks ago, and he actually was the first male I ever heard say that he does want a modern woman. And it kind of shocked me.
I've heard some guys say that. Yeah, I heard a young brother.
I never heard it until then.
Right.
But it's got to be true because these women exist in relationships. And if everything is going a certain way and they're not fixing plates and everything is 50-50, that means the man and the woman are going for it. So there's a whole lot of men going for these type of relationships.
And you know why? Because many of those men have grown up in relationships where they never really seen masculine authority. And they're not traditional. A lot of our men have been conditioned to be simps. Some are unconscious simps, meaning they supplement irrational male patterns because they're not men, they're males. So you got a lot of unconscious simps, but then you got a lot of men that are conscious simps, meaning they sacrifice important masculine principles for the sake of assuaging a woman. And to some degree, I really can't blame the guys because they're saying, I'm not getting a traditional woman 100%. So why am I giving a woman traditional virtues when she's not traditional herself?
I agree with that. I mean, that's what basically that was what his argument. Well, it wasn't an argument. That's what he said. And he said he's fine with it. He said he don't want no woman to sit down. He was a high earner. And he said that's what he wanted. He said he wanted this woman to bring something, go get you a career or something. I want her to be modern. He wasn't gonna be all about his money. It was gonna be about, what she brought too, so he understood the concept and, agreed with it. I got a question or two for you.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
first
Go ahead.
question is the reason why I say honor and obey is because I want to go back and tell you this. I took my marriage vows very seriously,
Yes, ma'am. Right.
very, very seriously. Actually, I did not have a wedding. I went down to the courthouse and got married.
Right.
And, right when I heard the man say that and I was supposed to repeat it, I started to shake.
Oh, wow.
I did. Because, at first I was just like, I was going to get married. But when I heard what he said, it pierced me. It really shook me.
I want
And
you to freeze. Why did that shake you? Do you think you've been conditioned not to? You think because you were a modern woman, you were conditioned? Because I think a lot of women, security balls, have been conditioned to see marriage as slavery, and they always go back to that old tired trope of Mister. Mister, was beating women. And they don't never talk about why Mister became Mister. I did a show in the past called "Leave Mister Alone." Because we don't talk about what the black men that were doing these atrocities was going to do. We don't talk about Jim Crow racism, how it impacted their psyche. We don't talk about seeing them going through bouts with the KKK. We don't see how these men didn't have jobs that made them become depressed or violent. We never think about the men as being human beings. We only see the men as subjugates to please the woman's feelings. And I get sick of it. I get real sick of it because we don't understand what those men went through. Human beings are a byproduct of their experiences. Would you agree with that?
I would, but to go back to that statement, why did at that moment, I realized, first of all, it got very serious to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that this was a covenant between me and God,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband was under him.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, I just said to myself, "Ooh, I can't disappoint," because it wasn't anymore about my husband.
Right.
It just became really, really real to me at that moment. And I didn't take my husband out of it, but I just realized going through those vows and repeating and saying them that this was a covenant and a promise that I'm making to God.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
and nowhere in the world you want to disappoint God. I mean, ooh, so it got real and I
Got
began
real.
to shake.
Right.
So,
Right. Right.
that played a real big part in me trying to understand and to get it right.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to disappoint God. I did
Right.
not want to do that. So I had to get it right. And it did. It shook me. So my point I'm trying to make by that is often I think people should write their own vows because if you're going into a marriage, which marriage is a traditional thing, marriage is in the Bible. If that's what you truly want and you're calling it that, it should be just that on godly principles. But if you're just looking for a union, y'all just come up with some nice words and some agreements and go ahead and say that so it can be outlined that way. But when you talk about marriage is a deep thing. It's just not just calling out some words. And that's when it got serious for me. Now, my next question for you is how do you feel about foreign relationships? Like, with women in Brazil or wherever. I hear you talk about the passport, the passport. Well, I don't know if that's you or not, but the passport men, whether they're going all over the world looking for different mates. How do you feel
Right.
about that?
Well,
How
I feel very strongly about it. I believe in the avocation of all men, but most importantly, black men. Many people try to shame black men, security boss, saying, "Oh, you're only going over there to trick." And my point, if they are tricking, that's between them and God. But they're tricking here in America. And listen, I understand that there's some. I think you got to sometimes leave the demographics of where you're at. If you're living in Chicago, maybe you need to go to, I don't know, maybe you need to go to RDU, Raleigh Durham. You might need to go to different places where the women are a lot more traditional. But I would say, by and large, I think foreign women are just better equipped to give men what they want because they have been raised under traditional patriarchal norms. And so that's how it was for the black community 20, 30, well, not even 20, 40, 50, 60 years ago, before we had first wave, second wave, third wave, and fourth wave feminism. Third wave and fourth wave feminism has been the death kill for the Black family and the Black relationships.
Yeah.
First wave feminism was fine, and second wave was okay because first wave to say, look, I want to get paid equally to a man. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with women getting paid what men get paid if they do the work. The problem is a lot of women want to get paid what men get paid, but they don't want to do the work. They don't want to put in the work, but they want to continue to demand. And now it's gotten so bad that many want to be superior to the men. But back to point, when I traveled abroad, the women in foreign countries, when I listen to my dear friend, Sweet Lulu Bean, she exudes what foreign women exude, which is a high respect for masculine order and masculine authority. They respect the elders. They respect the leaders. They see the men as the mouthpiece or the mediators between God and her. But in our culture and society, we don't value our men. We don't value them because men have never seen masculine men in the families. Therefore, they fight masculine authority and power. Therefore, they want traditional norms of masculinity, but at the same time, they don't want to respect masculine authority. When a man is respected, that's love to him. A man's love currency is how you respect him as a man. But then men have to fight with social media. They have to fight with university indoctrination. They have so many things that they are fighting with when women in those countries are not dealing with the pull that many men in here in America are dealing with. And it's not to say, security boss, that those women are not being influenced by some of the ravages of feminism, but it's not as aggressive. A man has a higher probability of getting the kind of traditional woman that he wants in a foreign country than it will in America. And it does not mean that if you're a sucker in America, you're going to be a sucker abroad. And it doesn't mean that those women can't turn once they come here. I just feel if they are raised in traditional families where the community is strong, you have a greater chance. The probability is greater than the possibility, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, I think a good man deserves a good woman. So wherever he has to do to obtain that, I'm with it. I advocate for men. I want men to be whole because, like I said, we cannot live without you all. And it starts with you all. So,
Right.
and we got to get the family back because I have no idea what is happening to our culture. It's
Well,
going down a slippery slope
it's
very
going
quickly.
down a slippery slope. You're right, sis. And it's getting
Very, very
worse.
quickly, and it's
Right.
sad. It's very sad because a lot of us are still blaming the white man.
I totally
And
agree with that. I totally agree. I agree with you 100% because, listen, the racist white supremacy play a role in the demise of the Black community and family, yes. But you make the white man a god when you blame everything on white supremacy. You can't blame everything on white supremacy because buildings were being, listen, I'm in the Tar Heel state, the greatest state in the union. And so are you. You are now a Tar Heel.
I am too, yep.
You're from the 704, I'm from the 252.
Right.
We had great institutions in the central part of North Carolina. We had Black Wall Street. I went to North Carolina Central University. Black Wall Street was the epicenter of Black progress and Black excellence. Wilmington, North Carolina was the epicenter of Black excellence and progress. But what we had back then, security boss unsolicited, we had a stronger faith in God. And we had a stronger faith in community. And even the women that got their degrees back then, security boss unsolicited, they still respected masculine authority. The man was sending his wife to college, but she still, just because he was a farmer, she still respected him. Right. She didn't see him as a farmer as being dusty. That's why I say if Jesus came here himself, some women would see Jesus as dusty. They said Jesus is dusty because he got on sandals. And because Jesus is not, he don't make six figure. So Jesus is dusty. They would have shot Jesus down.
Yes. See, that's a big fear because we were sent off to be what? Nurses and teachers.
Nurses and teachers, right.
That's what it was. And
right. Nurses and teachers, right.
But and that's us coming from the South. And it's
coming
just
from the
kind of,
South, right.
Clinician, you may do well with it, but when I hear some of the things, I just can't believe it. Because it's just, and what you're saying is that we had a foundation back then.
Oh, we had a foundation.
Right now we don't have foundation.
We don't have it. Listen,
right.
The gospel says you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskins. And that's what Anton was saying. You gotta burn the foundation because the ground is fallow. The Winans, they were a gospel group in the past. They said, break up that fallow ground. The ground is too hard. And the hearts of the modern woman is too hard to receive the instruction of masculine men. So what men are saying is to hell with it. Give me liberty or give me death. What the men are saying, I'm going to go to a place where I'm honored and respected. And here's the caveat to that. Only a small percentage of black men, Security Boss Unlimited, have passports. So it's a very small percentage. That's a very small percentage of Americans that have passports. So when people just think, black men are just traveling, in big numbers, they're not. It's a very small percentage. But the word is getting out that, listen, there's greater in foreign lands. Sweet Little Bean she talked about how, black men in America are handsome. She respects black men. But black men have been so conditioned to see themselves as less than through a negative process called negative socialization that they don't even know how much power that they have. Black men, you have more power than you know. And it's my job as a therapist to more or less remodify that negative schema that you have. In the clinical world, a schema is a fixated way of thinking. And that affliction of that schema comes through pain and fear. And so many of our men have been traumatized to defer power instead of demanding power. That's why the women don't respect them. That's why I tell men to focus on your purpose. Don't worry about women. Women will come later. I'm having so much fun in my 50s because I'm making more money now. I'm a lot more polished now,
Yeah.
I got that salt and pepper, but I'm a polished Leo,
Right.
And so I don't really care about what a woman thinks about me. I don't care, one, because I'm married, but I don't care. And me and my wife been married for over 25 years, and my wife got out of line. She could go, and I love her, but I say if she got out of line, she can go. Beyonce said,
I'm about to check in with my husband to make sure he don't feel that way.
Well,
it's got to be death do us part.
Well, listen.
No, I told you there might be a deal breaker there because we don't be playing. It's just sex is death these days. We don't play with certain things. I mean, you don't bring certain things into your relationship. A 25-year relationship is outstanding. Even though it may not be perfect all the time, you haven't gotten to the point that you're so frustrated with the situation that you're gonna just walk away and think you're gonna get another one and it's gonna be better for you. So,
what do you mean, the man or the woman?
Either way.
I don't know. I think your husband right now.
Don't be fooled.
No, hear me. I think your husband, it's his metrics and his background and his intellect and his wealth. Maybe not in America, but I think men get more refined as we get older. I think your husband could get a high quality woman. Might not from America, but from another country. I really believe that because he's a lot more refined. Actually, in other countries, women like older established men. And a lot of times they're younger women, Security Boss. They might be 25 to 30 because they see age as a source of strength, and because it's a patriarchal culture, they respect. So I think if your husband say, you know what, and I know your husband loves you, but this say hypothetically if something happened to you, it's not a doubt in my mind that your husband can get a top tier woman with his wealth and his intellect and his stature at 6'3". Yeah, he could. I could. I can go to Colombia.
I'm gonna have to ask him. I'm sure he could get another woman. I'm not saying that. I'm saying,
right.
I'm telling you, I don't think he would. I don't know. He tells me I don't know.
Well, I'm telling you something. It gets better for men. It gets better for the men as they get older. See, it's how the sexual market works. As men get older and more established, their stock go up.
Yeah.
A woman, her greatest currency is her beauty and her virtue and her youth. But as she gets older, it diminishes. Therefore, she got to have something outside of her beauty. How can she contribute to a man? But see, a lot of women, as they get older, they still think that behind and sex is what's going to get them in the door. You got to have more than that. Because if a man is used to having sex with multiple women, he's not fazed by sex. It's no big deal.
You know what, Kosher? But I don't think that if something would have happened to my husband, and this is just me talking now because nothing's happened, I don't think that I could put what I've put into my husband to any other man.
I respect that. Yes, ma'am. I respect that.
Not at all.
I respect that. Because y'all got history. Y'all got a lot of history.
Yeah, and like I said, I read books about my husband. I wanted to know his personality, what made him think and do the things that he does. And it hasn't stopped because he's always changing. Not always changing, not like that. But he's growing, he's getting better, he's becoming more intellectual, he's learning more about he's humble. Now see, I say this a lot. I do think men should be more humble in relationships and know where they're weak. My husband can come and tell me, this is too much for me. I need your help. And I just appreciate that so much. Whereas another man may be going in circles and making the same mistakes over and over again because he just wants to be the masculine man of the relationship. And I just think it requires a lot of humility, a lot of self-reflection, and growth, maturity.
Well, right. It does require all of that because just because you're the head does not mean you abuse power. I don't believe in the abuse of power just because you're the man. But I think a man should walk in his dominion. Shout out to my man Gerald Carter. Shout out to him for the $20 super chat. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate to the people that are giving. We got about 45 people in the house, guys. Please share the content. This is a great stream. We got a traditional sister, security boss, unlimited. I know you guys are shocked because we really
Unlimited, unsolicited.
unsolicited. Yeah,
Don't say unlimited. You got people out there that just don't do things the right way.
I've been butchering your name, man. I'm calling all kinds of names. So I was laughing because I said, "Man, I messed the name up." But men are looking for women, traditional women like you. Many men feel that you are a relic of the past. They don't feel like women like you that stand strong by your man. Loretta Lynn says, "Stand by your man." She made that song back in the 70s, I believe, or 80s. But many men just don't feel that women like you. I think they feel like women like you are far in between, and you're from an older generation. What's your take on that?
I am from an older generation, but what I would say to that is, this is me today. This is me. I would say this: if you can find a woman that really loves you, that's kind to you, that wants to be married and wants to be married with you, I think you need to marry her because she'll put in the work to become that helper for you. And she'll allow you to delegate whatever it is needs to be done within your marriage and allow you to be the head, not allow, but will get into her position and let you lead her. But it's work because women have brains. They are people. They have feelings. All this stuff does exist, but we definitely have to figure out where we fit in. And that's really important. I wasn't this person 26 years ago. I was not, but I wanted to be. So I had to get into it. I had to, like I said, read those books. I had to understand my husband. He had, we just had to work it out.
Well, educate me because you said you went in with the mindset to honor and obey your husband.
Definitely.
But then you said you had to evolve. So it's confusing to me because it seems like you were already ready to serve and to honor your husband. But then on the flip side, you said you had to evolve into it. So that's like it's a contradiction. Educate me.
Let me explain. In the physical, I knew I was a wife. I knew I had to manage the house. I knew I was going to cook the meals and fix the plate.
Yes, ma'am.
I knew that. Mentally, I was already educated, per se. Already a career woman, per se. I already was who I was. And I had to figure out how that needed to fit in with my husband's plan. My husband planned to have me as a security boss, which again, we've been doing this almost 20 years.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
I know nothing about this business. Knew nothing about it. Knew nothing about it. I was a real estate agent. I sold houses. For 5 or 6 years, I made 6 figures. I made more money than my husband did.
Wow.
Okay, so all of these things had to come into consideration. We sit down and I had to let him know I'm still looking for you for the guidance on what way we need to go with this fortune.
Boom.
I didn't beat him over the head with it. I used to say things like, okay, this is no insecurities here. I'm an asset to you. How are you going to use it?
Right. I like that. Right.
That's what I mean.
Yes, ma'am. Right.
I was only 25 when I got married. I wasn't a grown woman, by no means. I still had to manage. This is one thing I used to say to him. Before we got married, I had an apartment, car, everything on my own, right? And then I got married to him and he had his own. But when we got together, the money was always short. I couldn't figure it out. I used to ask, how in the world is it that I can live alone and you can live alone? And, we do fine. But when we come together, the money is short. So we had to seek counseling about what are we doing wrong? How's the best way to do it? The counselor said something real simple. Put all the money in one pot. I put all the money in one pot. I didn't resist. I was never resistant to it, but I didn't know everything. That's what I'm saying. That's the evolution of it. I had to come into the wisdom of being a wife and a lady. I'm not saying I wasn't willing to do it. I knew what it looked like, but I needed the wisdom behind it. Needed to make sense to me. I'm a Libra.
Right.
It has to make sense.
Right.
That's what I mean by that. It has to make sense. I just don't do stuff because it
Right.
becomes chore. You
Right.
start
Right.
doing. I have a friend now that'll say to me right now to this day, "Oh, I don't do no chore cooking." You know, I had to like, What? Chore cooking?" I said, "Oh, okay." So that's what I mean by evolving. I had to rest in this. I knew what it looked like, or I knew what I was supposed to be doing, but it had to make sense to me.
And
And that
and, and and that very adage that she doesn't do any chore cooking is why American black men are saying the hell with it. American men in general. It hasn't gotten. Look, you and I came out of high school 89, 90. Let's go back in time. Has it gotten better? No, it's gotten worse. You just saw you got women attacking other women. They attacked Iyanla Van Zant. And even though I think April Mason makes some great points, I think she's still been indoctrinated by Western lore as well. They attacked Shahrazad Ali. And they attacked the other woman from Atlanta. They got out of the business of matchmaking because a lot of the women had unrealistic expectations. And so a lot of black men are saying, "Look, I'm good. I'm good." And we got a lot of American simps, but a lot of brothers are saying, "Look, I'm fine. I'd rather be by myself. I'd rather focus on myself. I'd rather go to a culture where the women are conditioned to serve and respect me." It doesn't mean those women in other countries don't have issues. It doesn't mean that those women won't try you, because women are going to be women regardless of where you go. I'm going to say it again. Women are women regardless of the culture, but men are the harnessers of the feminine. And if a woman have already been socialized to serve and to honor her man, it becomes easier for a man if he gets a woman that's been socialized to do it. I had a brother on my show called The American Brazilian, and he says like night and day dating his Afro Latino wife versus American women. He says night and day. And so that's what men are looking for. And that's why you hear guys like Top Gun, passport, brother. They're saying get that passport. With the understanding that women are
But you know what, Coach? I want to make sure. I want to make sure that we get this right. So I hope that I answered your question on the evolution. My mother, and she just recently died. My
I'm
mother
sorry
was
to hear that.
a wife to her heart. I mean, nothing stood in place of did that, no matter what my dad did. And I always say I'm never going to tell their story. But I had to evolve in being this woman of today. I had to ask for godly wisdom in order to fulfill that. I knew what it looked like. I knew what I was supposed to do, but it had to make sense. That's what I mean. So I hope that doesn't, we got to get that straight because I don't contradict myself. My message has always been the same. I'm just telling
No,
you my
no, no,
real,
no. I respect your honesty. You're being genuine, and I know
yeah,
where
I'm
you're
telling
coming
my
from.
real life
Right,
journey. Real life.
right. No, I love your honesty, but watch this. I got a caveat for you.
Okay.
But sometimes when you're walking in faith or respecting your man, it's not going to always make sense.
It won't.
Sometimes you just have to trust him and trust God that it'll come together in the end. Like the old people used to say, security boss unlimited. We don't understand things now, but we understand what better by and by. So I'm giving you some good games. You about to take up a love offer because you're gonna shoot about the
Listen.
shot this victory.
It's unsolicited, and you're right. But that's what I'm talking about
I
when
know.
I say
Please forgive me for butchering your name. I keep
no, I'm
messing
not.
up.
Listen,
Right.
that's what I'm talking about being mature. I'm talking about that's maturity. Maturity is what grows you up in the things that you can't control. That's the submissiveness of it.
Mhm.
That's submission.
Right.
That's not. I didn't walk in the door being having submission because I didn't know what it looked like.
Right.
I mean, I know the physical things I was supposed to do,
Mhm.
but this is you're talking about maturity. For me, I'm gonna just say it. I'm on your channel. Security in Christ. And like I said, his will. When I said that vow, at that point, it became real. It
No
became
doubt.
a covenant,
Respect. Right.
and at that point, I said to myself, I'm never leaving. So if you're
Right.
never leaving, you're submitting to what God has given you. And now you got to do what you're supposed to do, you know. And you're
Right.
not
No.
gonna know. You're not gonna know, but your maturity allows you to, witness to things as you grow. And then for me, I think it just shows me there's confirmations along the way. For me, there's confirmations along the way. Like now, 26 years later, me and my husband if we have an argument, it's so stupid that we look at each other and kind of laugh, and I call him big head or something like that. And then I ain't gonna tell you what he says because it's not funny anymore. So you know, it's not funny anymore, but it used to be funny. And
Right.
nothing bad, but it's just, so that's what we do now, 26 years later, because the things that were so serious and monumental back then, they're not.
Well. You're a great woman, and I'm sure your husband ain't gonna let you go because you were conditioned like women were 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. You
That was
weren't more or less socialized to think like most modern women. So if God forbid something happens to me and my wife, I wouldn't deal with the typical modern woman. I just don't because I'm very demanding, but not in a bad way. I'm very loving. I'm old school romantic, but I have high demands because I know what my worth is, and I
I
know
see.
what I can get. Huh?
I see before the billions over there, femininity unlimited. Listen, you got him saying unlimited now. Unsolicited. And
Secure.
listen, coach, yeah.
Yeah,
Go ahead. I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
sis. No, you go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. You gotta go.
I was just getting ready to say though, it's I just would like to have people that want to be married to put in the work. Don't don't I just don't want them to let go because it's not always perfect when you're going through. And Kosha, you can teach this better than I can. There are 7 stages to a marriage. Uh so you got the calming, the norming. You have to go through certain things in order for it to be a
Right.
place where you can relax into it. Up until that point, it's definitely you have to be mature. It's because you're becoming one. Can you imagine becoming one with somebody being easy? You gotta get in where you fit. It just
Wait. You can't become one if you think you're better by default.
no, you cannot.
You're not, and see that's the problem with the typical modern woman. She comes in the
Okay.
relationship thinking she's better. She thinks she's
That
better,
doesn't make
like
sense to me. That makes
right.
no sense. If
Well,
somebody's
right.
job is to protect me, I don't know how I can be better. Yeah.
It's because like I said, most modern men. I like what one brother said. Western culture has messed up a lot of black men. Black men have been conditioned, and American men in general have been conditioned to be simps. They have because they don't demand anything. And
Right.
what they don't realize is that in other countries, they will be respected, but they got to go do a lot of therapy. Black men need therapy. That's why I became a therapist
Oh,
back in 2009. I knew it was important, and it's even more important now. That's why I want to liberate as many young men, but also black men as possible. Also, all American men, regardless of race, because many have been conditioned to see themselves as less than. And until they break that psychic mold that's been impacted on them mentally, they're going to continue to go through some of the ravages. Security, boss, unsolicited.
unsolicited. You got
Unsolicited. I got it right.
unlimited. Lord Jesus. I think I was getting ready. Did I say it? I don't
You
know.
said unlimited. You said security,
Oh
boss, unlimited.
Lord, unsolicited. Listen, Kosha, do you think that
Go
black
ahead.
men need one-on-one therapy, or do you think they can benefit from like the men's nights in the barbershops?
Well, my channel is a culmination of both. The Manhood Chronicles is the show that I'm projecting today because it talks about the chronicles and the stories that men go through. So this show today was more or less formatted from the Manhood Chronicles. This is a virtual barbershop. And I'm going to drop the link at some point to have the men to come up and talk. But they're definitely benefiting. I've heard men saying they're getting more out of these kind of platforms than they are from church and going to this regular therapy. Because most traditional therapists don't teach things through the masculinist lens. They teach it through the white feminist theory lens, which says empower the woman, see the man as bad. That's how they teach them. And so a lot of men gain strength, clarity, and insight from these platforms, especially my platform. And that's why, guys, to the 41 that are listening, I need you guys to share the content. I need you guys to share it. We got to get this channel out because I am a licensed clinical therapist from the Tar Heel State with security boss unsolicited. And I went to one of the best schools in the country, not trying to brag, but it don't get no better than being a Tar Heel. Carolina is one of the best schools in the nation.
I
And
agree. I think
Carolina didn't
all
make
things
me.
South, though. I think all things South, thumbs up. But listen, Kosher, if you're done with me, can I shout out my show for tonight?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, sis. I'm not. You can talk as long as you want to, but if you got to go, I understand. But go ahead and shout the show. Go ahead.
I do need to go. I got to get ready for my show, and unlike you, it takes me a while to get things in order. You did it very well. So
That's that Leo Dome. We
yeah,
do
you
it for
done
church
thought
out
about it
here.
all day and all night, so you can easily put it together. It's a little different for me, but
Right.
yes, everyone that's here, and I want you definitely to share this show. But I definitely want you to come over tonight, live with Security Boss Unsolicited. I am speaking about, can masculine energy be attractive in a woman?
Mhm.
Can masculine energy be attractive in a woman? We're gonna get into it. I would like to have all the comments. I want some of you all to cam up. I just want to hear what you say.
Right,
I have
right.
to add, and I want y'all to hear what I'm adding because I'm gonna tell you this, and y'all can hold it against me if you like. I am the young lady with the Charger with the 707 horsepower, the Hellcat, the fast cars. I love that stuff.
Right,
I love
right,
lifting weights. I
right,
That's what I used to do. I love
right,
sports. I
right.
love all those things that some would associate with masculine energy.
Mhm.
But like I said earlier on, I feel as though I've been a lady since 19 years old. So I want to talk about that because, I don't want it to be a talking point. I want everybody to, you know, see how we all can carry masculine and feminine energy, men and women. So I need y'all to be there if possible. And look, the Ingram experience says no because you're thinking of it negatively.
I
Don't
know I know where you're going at. You're trying to say
don't
from
do it.
Ingram is a Libra like you, but I know
Oh,
I know where you're going at. You're trying to say that those things like playing basketball, playing sports, and doing those things with your husband, as long as it's harnessed correctly. If you're talking about in that way, then I don't have an issue with it. But if you're talking about to the point where you're challenging his authority, you're gonna always win and be competitive, then
no.
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 No, it's
No,
it's
no, no.
horrible.
I'm just saying
Right.
that the world has now kind of made all those things, like I even my husband, but he does it, I don't. He used to say, You used to be a little tomboy," 'cause I hung out with my dad.
Right, 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 right,
You
right,
know,
right.
but I've never been a tomboy. I've
Mhm.
always been the lady. But, I'm gonna talk about it. I wanna hear what you all have to say. I'm open to your points, but I want y'all to think about it though, because we're talking about masculine energy. Masculine energy is only energy. It's the source. It's where we're pulling it from. So just get that right. But anyway, make sure you come to Security Boss unsolicited.
Right.
It's very important that you come to unsolicited.
Unsolicited.
Cam
Right.
up. I just want you there. I appreciate listen, Kosher, I appreciate so much that you had me here today.
No, no, right. Listen, it was off the cusp. I was researching. I always like to reflect on my shows, and I said, I'll be damned. I said, security boss unsolicited got the spirit of the mongoose, like sweet Lulu Bean. Because that's what we need. We need women to have the spirit of the mongoose, resilient, able to fight the snakes of modern women, able to take the venom and bounce back and continue to defend family, faith, and tradition. And
How
so
about
that
just be an example,
well,
just
well,
be
well,
an
be- well, being an example is having the spirit of the mongoose. It's
absolutely.
a combination of all of it. It's not only for face value, but it's also in word and deed. It's a combination of all.
Thank you. Thank you so very
All
much.
right,
All right, Imma have to sign out, but I
all
hope to
right.
see you later
Oh
and
no,
have
no
a good
doubt. We're gonna
good
chop it
rest
up.
of your show, and then you come in there and say something, you gotta add your masculine energy to Oh, no, 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 let's say it better, that Leo energy.
Hey, man, if it ain't Leo, it ain't right. So
There you go. All right. Thank y'all.
all
Hope
right,
to see you
sis.
tonight.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Salute. All right, be good, sis. All right, bye bye. All right, guys. So you guys heard it from Security Boss Unsolicited. What a very poignant and a very positive sister. I'm gonna drop the link in a few minutes, guys. And Sweet Lulu Bean has done an awesome job being an exemplar and a cheerleader for Black men because foreign Black women abroad are totally different than American women. We're gonna critique the show I did with her at some point as well. But guys, if you like what we're doing, please donate to the channel. Please donate to Cash Out $7 Smalls. I have clients to see in a few minutes, so I got to hurry up and get off this show with this platform. I have patience to see. But if you like what I'm doing, if you don't have any money, share this content. That's the greatest thing that you can do for me to help this channel grow is to share the content. If you believe in what I'm doing, if you like what I'm doing, share the content. It's 38 people watching. If you share the content, I need you to hit one. I need all 38 people to share the content. Please share and share it by hitting one. Shout out to my dear sister TJ Mosaic. How you doing, sis? She said, yeah, she got that girlfriend experience. And yeah, so we're gonna talk about yes, no, right, you're right. She's dropping golden nuggets. You're right, James Turner. She's definitely dropping some golden nuggets. But we're gonna talk about my dear friend Sweet Lulu Bean, because Sweet Lulu Bean, in my mind, is an exemplar of um, of what men are looking for. She grew up in a culture that saw men get respect. And you're right, that therapy deals with the specific of the individual, true intimacy. The barbershop talk shows men to continue to know that they are not alone in their struggles, both are needed. No doubt. Thank you, James Turner. You're right, brother. And to my man Yaziz, he said, when men react to their emotion, it's mostly destructive, but for women acting their masculine outside of social sign is mostly productive. Right. And so thank you guys to the ones that have shared. So I'm going to pull this link up and then I'm going to drop the link. We're going to have a conversation, but this was the show that I did with Sweet Lulu Bean, as she is an advocate for Black men, and she's been raised under traditional heteronormative masculine culture. So let's listen, and I want you guys to take some mental notes on what Sweet Lulu Bean was saying.
He didn't have to do that. Nobody is speaking about the fact that she was under his roof, that he made that decision to let her in there and to take care of her.
Mm-hmm.
So she clearly did something for him to say, get out. She clearly did something for him to say, okay, clearly you being in my space isn't working out for you. Let me look for somebody else. Get out. She didn't differentiate herself from anybody else that was in his life.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got there's nothing that I'm blaming him for. He's taking care of his kids. He's owning his kids. He hasn't disowned his kids. He's not making her go to court and prove this and that. What I saw was a belligerent
And this is
woman
his response to the baby.
For
I sure did 2 weeks ago.
what the father of her child went and did for her. That's what I saw.
Mm-hmm. 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 You know, Sweet Lulu Bean, when you look at this, you know, these mental distortions that you see in America, how would that behavior have been dealt with in South America, in your opinion?
So, you know, things are slowly becoming westernized, but culturally speaking, if you're not married, whether you're a man or a woman, your parents step in. You go home and you have the support of the grandparents, and that child becomes their child, seeing that you can't step into the adult role of being married and taking care of that child. But as Tim Howard pointed out, is that, you know, it's the destruction of the Black family is generational.
Right.
You know, like you said, you have the previous generation who are also single, and you have the previous generation, you know, who don't have an inheritance to leave to this generation in terms of culture, in terms of monetary value. So there's a lot that's wrong.
Yes, it's a lot that's wrong, and it appears, unfortunately, Sweet Lulu Bean, that it's getting worse and worse. And when you have women like yourself that try to hold women accountable, they call you pick-me's, even though you're married, but they'll call you a pick-me, but you know, you got a husband. And
Yeah,
you
they'll
know,
call you a pick-me, or they'll accuse you of looking down on American Black women. They'll accuse you of being a foreign woman that doesn't respect the Black woman. And that's not the case. I support the Black woman. She's my sister.
right.
At the end of the day, married to the same Black men that I uphold and have respect for. So
Right.
how can I look down on her? How can I not want the best for her? Because she is me.
And you know, it's unfortunate. So when you talk about, you know, I did recently remember that Kay had left the Lapeef show. I mean, not Kay, Courtney. What's your prognosis about that? You said that she wasn't being guided, because I saw that she just, you know, eventually went away.
Arrogance. Firstly, it was, and I remember it saying to Courtney that she needs to be careful with her outlook and supporting a person like Kay. And I told her that what will happen is you will leave the Lapeef show and you will leave Kay, who's got nothing to contribute, nothing of substance, nothing, no truth that is actually going to move us forward.
Right.
And what I would have liked to see Courtney do is ask her fans. I was a staunch fan of Courtney when she came, because we finally had a woman, a Black woman in a man's space that was willing to listen, that was willing to reflect the feminine characteristics or traits that Black men were looking for. And that's what she stood for. And I don't think she understands the symbolism and the hope that a lot of people had for her, both men and women. And I wish that she would have humbled herself and she would have believed enough in Anton, in the show, to humble herself and ask people, what is it that you see in me? But instead, she became a chameleon. Instead, she reverted to all the tropes that Black men complain about. She was disrespectful. She was belligerent. She didn't listen. Nothing could be said. And like I said, Anton was a Black man. Anton and Jerry were black men that wanted to cover her, give her the protection, and give her guidance. And she was very disrespectful and ungrateful to them. But in the same breath, like I said, I also think that they're responsible for women like Kay and Courtney, because they don't hold them accountable, and they're still asking them to have opinions on the thoughts and the experiences of Black men. Black women don't ask, Kosha, Black women don't ask, Black men, how they feel Black men have let them down when it comes to their hair texture, when it comes to the to speak on their experiences.
Right. It's almost like when Black men share their pain, is minimized or more or less excoriated, more. Shout out to my dear friend Anye Nenya. I think I'm saying her name right. Hey, the culture clinician. I don't even want to be so modern that my traditional core and amazing upbringing doesn't shine brighter. And shout out to you, dear. It appears that some of our African sisters are raised totally different than American Black women. And once again, that's not to denigrate the good sisters in America that are trying to do the right thing. There was a time, guys, when our Black women exuded some of the feminine demure of women like Lulu Bean, women like Miss Parker, back to basics, Tamika G's. Our women exuded some of those characteristics. But now it's almost like if you exude those characteristics, you're seen as less than. I never really understood how being feminine can be mocked and mimicked. And what women don't understand, that their greatest virtue is their femininity. Joel, the middle child, what are you getting from this conversation? Are modern women victims of their own ignorance? And if so, tell me why. Yeah, it's a little static. You have some static in the back. Go ahead, brother.
My headset's been acting up. I don't know. I'm on my phone, but Bluetooth has been acting up. But if you can, you say you can hear me, right?
I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I had talked about the situation with the baby. Actually, I was on King Talk, and there was a bit of a misunderstanding between me and the lead attorney, because I was coming from the point of origin where I was like, you shouldn't be putting yourself in a position to deal with those type of women to begin with. However, I was still getting where his side was coming from, which was, from the general situation, which is, of course, yes, she's in the wrong for what she was doing, and I'm very well aware that she probably wasn't putting hands on him like she would have been if the camera wasn't going, So it's like I'm aware that she was being chaotic. I don't believe that whole postpartum, that postpartum depression thing. That's not a valid excuse. You still need to know. You still need to act right. And also at the latter end, because there's tiers of levels. Of course, the baby, he's got the overall tier for dealing with her. Then it's on.
So, guys, the question remains that if are modern women best suited to meet the demands of traditional Black men? Are modern women suited to meet the demands and the needs of traditional Black men? I'm going to drop the link in a few minutes, but Lulu Bing has done a great job, her and Security Boss Unsolicited, on the virtues of why women should be better and why women should be complementary to their men instead of being assailants. And so I'm going to drop the link at some point, guys. I'm going to drop the link at some point. But Lulu Bean did a great job because she is from South Africa. She's from the Hoysian culture, where it's basically a patriarchy, and the women have been conditioned to serve their men, unlike, sadly, some of the women here in America. And, guys, I do these shows because I want to see men empowered, but mostly Black men. My show is not limited to Black men only, but I do want to see Black men empowered. When Black men become empowered, they're going to start demanding respect. And I've said it before in the past that you Black brothers have more power than you realize. You don't even know how much power you have. And so it's my job to help you harness that power by helping you uncover so that you can recover And so you can get rid of the thinking errors that you have. We call it the simp chip, but also we call it negative social conditioning. And so you have to be restructured mentally to change how you're thinking about yourself, because many of you brothers have been through years of negative socialization and negative social conditioning. You never seen masculine authority. You weren't raised by your fathers. You've been conditioned to serve women at your expense instead of serving women to a point that they respect and honor you and obey you as a man. And so I do these shows and I bring on guests like Security Boss Unsolicited, but also Sweet Lulu Bing, because there's a remnant, but it's greater in the African countries, women that want to more or less break bread with you guys. And travel is the great equalizer for helping men become the better version of themselves. So I'm gonna drop the link in a minute, but I want you guys to finish listening to Sweet Lulu Bing because she's giving some gems. Okay.
Her for acting the way she acted, and then at the bottom, he didn't. Yes.
I'm sure they do, but there are some good sisters in the spaces that are trying to learn, they're trying to listen, and they're trying to make up for the errors they made in their younger years so they can get husbands, or like Sweet Lulu Bean, she already have a husband, tell women what they need to do to get the outcomes that they need and or deserve. And then also shout out to my dear friend Mika G. Thank you, love, for the $10 super chat. Mika G said at the Coaching Commission, looking forward to your upcoming content as we continue to address the matters that have been detrimental to our families and communities. And yes, love, that's why I'm doing what I do. And, it's disappointing because I am a licensed clinical therapist. I'm matriculated at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I have 3 degrees. I worked in law enforcement. I worked as a teacher. So my background is very diverse. And shows like this, we need to get the message out because there are not Black male therapists in these spaces. And so we need to get the message out because there's a lot of mental health issues in our communities that's causing us to falter. And that's why I do what I do as a licensed therapist, because I want to see our women win. I want to see good women that are trying to get good men win. I want to see the Black men that are broken win with good women. I want to see the Black family back in unison to some degree, whatever's left of the Black family and the Black community, because many men don't have any faith in the system or the sisterhood of the modern Black woman, which is so sad and so sad. But Sweet Little Bean, you talk about these chameleons in these men's spaces. And I want you to talk more in detail, because I did see the show a couple of hours ago with O'Shea and Kay. I mean, not Courtney. Yeah. And so why do you think she is being manipulative or more or less trying to use male spaces to push her own agenda, in your opinion?
I also wanted to ask, let me answer the Courtney question, but I don't want to forget that I'm going to ask you and Joel a question, the both of you. So regarding Courtney, firstly, she comes on very feminine, very aware of how she dresses, very soft-spoken, very agreeable. And then I don't know when she just did this 360 when Anton brought on Amira, who is Lebanese. And I've noticed this, like I said, because I've also had it where if any women from any outside culture has anything to say to Western Black women about what they see, it's automatically race-based, or it's automatically culture-based. And that's where Courtney took it to as soon as Amira came on. Anton was just bringing somebody from a different culture, who you can see comes from a very submissive culture in terms of, being a second wife, how she deals with her husband. And Courtney made it race-based, and Black women don't like being compared to anybody else, but they have no issues. I don't hear the same Black women having issues with Cynthia G insulting Black men up and down. I don't see the same women having issues with how Kay speaks to the Chicago Rillers, speaks to the men that come, and all the men that come onto that platform. So that's.
And she made a very great point about how sometimes Kay shows her disdain for my brother and my dear friend Chicago Rilla. And, some guys just see it as harmful banter. But you gotta understand the culture where Sweet Lulu Bean is from is that they don't disrespect masculine authority in general. American women have been conditioned to see themselves as equal to a man. They want equality many times only when it's convenient. And that's why they say and do the things that they do. And so when you hear foreign women like Sweet Lulu Bean, that hails from South Africa, speak in the power that she speak in, a lot of time it's not received because she's looking from a perspective that sometimes women say they want protection from black men, but they don't want to be guided by black men on a consistent basis. And that's always been the great caveat. And men have said it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again that protection comes with a price. If you want the protection of a black man, you got to respect and honor the black man. It comes with a price. And so women like Sweet Lulu Bean, when you hear her talk, a lot of black men are not used to black women respecting them and honoring them. So it sounds strange. That's why when men travel and when women treat them well, they don't know how to act because they're not used to it. They've been so conditioned to broker power through negative socialization instead of demanding power. And Chicago Real is a very intelligent brother, very smart, very sharp. He got that Leo swag like me, But I've seen times where he blew up because he probably felt disrespected. And so that's what they're talking about. That's what she's talking about because she's from a culture where respect is demanded. And so I'm trying to get men to the point where you can demand what you want from a woman. In other cultures, women are not even allowed to speak to the manner that some of modern American women speak to their men. It's a penalty. That's why when I travel abroad, American women don't realize how good they got it because in other cultures, it's not tolerated. And in other cultures, the men say what they mean what they say. So keep listening to them. We're going to drop the link and we're going to have a discussion. And the question remains is that are foreign and traditional women better suited to meet the demands and needs of the Western black man or American man? So keep listening.
That's my issue. And then as soon as she has issues and Anton is trying to speak to her, I mean, so many shows have been done on Courtney. And like I said, not once did she sit down and actually confront these people or confront her fans about why they're saying the things they say. Instead, she remained defiant, she remained belligerent, and now she's running to another show where there is no male voice, no true male voice, except her own. So I mean, she's very disingenuous. She needs to go back to the Lapeef show, and she needs to face the public hissy fit that she had, and maybe there's something to learn. I still get corrected by my husband,
right? Yes, ma'am. Right.
Up till today, and I because I understand that I can be wrong, and that's something that women in this country seem to have an issue with. Is you can't be told you're wrong, and being wrong doesn't mean that you're a bad person. But not the ability of not being able to be wrong, the ability of not being able to be corrected says something about your character.
Right. It says a lot about many character. And once again, they become saboteurs of their own demise. And, and that's why I do these shows of Sweet Lulu Bean and Joel the Miller Child, because I try to bring awareness to the cognitive dissonance that so many are having. And I saw the discourse that you had with the lead attorney. I think you got both of you guys were correct. I think what Lee was saying is that when it comes down to men, we tend to, always hold men accountable, but we don't hold women accountable. But what you were saying, Joel, the Miller Child, is that he shouldn't have put himself in a predicament. You was not saying that she was wrong for doing what she did to him, but basically what you were trying to say is that, all right, guys, so what I'm going to do, I'm not going to play all of that because it's very long. You guys go check out the show that I did on the baby. But I'm going to do a show on that at some point. And guys, I want you to call in. Let's have a conversation. Because my show and my channel is dedicated to the empowerment and the advocacy of black men. So the link has been dropped. I'm going to feel the brothers to come up and let's have a conversation. Do you feel that Western women are snakes in disguise? Do you wish more Western women had the spirit of the mongoose, which means they attack snakes or venomous behaviors? And do you feel that you don't get the love and the respect that you need? Therefore, most, not all, most, not all, most, not all, most, not all are adequate enough to give you what you need in order to get the outcomes that you want. And so I want you guys to pop on. I want you guys to pop on. The soul of the seed saying, she's been frequently upsetting the show later. I've been watching her, and now I see why. So my whole point, once again, I have no qualms with Courtney. I don't know her enough to have any qualms. Courtney is Courtney, so my show is not to give a discourse on Courtney, but I'm going to present evidence, and I'm going to let you guys decide what the verdict is on Courtney. I have no issues with Courtney, to say the least. I don't really know her. I've seen her on the LaPeep show. But like I said, I have no dog in this fight for the most part. There have been a lot of contention that says that when the mirror came, she changed. But I don't know. I don't follow her enough to say yeah or nay. I don't know. But I want guys to come on this, have a conversation, because this show is very powerful. Tim Howard said that traditional women like Sweet Lulu Bean are not used to this type of Western feminism, and Miss Andre. And you are 100% correct, Tim Howard. You are 100% correct. She has been conditioned to see men as being the leaders and the pillars of the community. She has not been conditioned to see men broker or more or less share power. Women in the West have been conditioned to see men to the point that they broker and they share power. So the link has been dropped. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a discussion. You got to say most, not why. 5 times before they get it, Coach. Yeah, you're right, Soar C. Yeah, I got to say it, man, because a lot of times they will take your words and they'll run with it. They don't listen. And so shout out to the good women, though, that are trying. Shout out to TJ Mosaic. I love TJ. She's very cerebral. She talks about the journeys that she's went through as a woman and why she changed. So shout out to her. Shout out to Miss Parker Back to Basics. She's a good sister. She's trying to learn. Shout out to Mika G. Shout out to the good women to listen to these men platform. And the thing I love about these women, many times they listen. They listen. That's what I love about the sisters. They are listening. They're not coming into men's spaces to be, to more or less project their opinion unless I ask them. So I respect the fact that the sisters are listening and they're learning, because this is a phenomenon that a lot of our women are not used to. They're not used to the mental fragmentation and dysfunction that you currently see in this current milieu called America. Shout out to my man Yaziz. Shout out to him, my man Yaziz, for the $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Western women have learned a character that is ultimately determining their own destiny and unexpected outcomes. And you are correct, brother. Right. Western women have learned a character that is ultimately determining their own destiny and unexpected outcomes. And that's what we talked about in the past, that many don't believe that the fat meat is greasy. They don't believe it. And they don't believe it until it becomes a detriment to their own mental health and social well-being. So shout out to that brother. I want you guys, no, you'll find a sword. See, man, it's funny, man. I know you weren't trying to cause contention, man. You're a good brother, man. You're a good brother. And so I want the guys to come on. I want to hear from the men, because this show is for men by men, and my job is to support Black men. So shout out to Secure the Boss Unsolicited once again. I started to say Unlimited. Join Coaching tonight as he stopped by Secure the Boss Unsolicited at 8:30 as we discuss, can masculine energy be attractive to a woman? That's going to be a great show. So shout out to my sister once again. So guys, the link has been dropped. I want to hear you, because this is a dialogue, not a monologue. If you're at work and you can't be seen, I understand. But if you come on, please cam up, because I love to see who I'm looking at. Because I don't know if I'm dealing with dusty Negroes, so I want to see who I'm looking at. So let's have a conversation. To the men that are single, but also to the men that are married. What's your take on, can women like Sweet Lulu Bean and Security Boss Unsolicited be the repairer of the breach? Can they be the repairer of the breach? Or do you feel like Anton has said, and I agree with Anton, that the ground is so fallow and broken that there's no help? Do you feel that the conditions that have permeated in America become so decadent that there is no help for the modern woman? Or if there is help, it's only a small percentage that can be saved? So I need the guys to come on. to the women that are listening, to the savory women that are listening, to the good sisters that are listening. I want you to pop on as well, and let's have a conversation. Do you have the spirit of the mongoose? Are you willing to champion for the rights of the black man? Have you seen masculine authority? Have you been conditioned not to respect masculine authority? Do you see the black man as a vice, or do you see the black man as a virtue? I can't answer that question. I can't answer that question. Only you can. So I need men or women to come on. Let's have a discussion. Because once again, guys, this is a dialogue, not a monologue. So I'm going to drop the link again. Tim dropped the link. Tim has dropped the link. Shout out to my homie Tim. I love Tim. Tim is Mr. Reliable. But Tim also is an intellectual. Them air signs are very intellectual. They love conversation and they love seeing things from multiple dimensions. And so I tend to do good with those. So let's have a conversation, because we need to flame this fire. We need to flame this fire if we're going to deal with the issues in America. A lot of black men are traveling abroad, and there have been some that have more or less used mockery to more or less shame black men that travel. You know, there have been some that call black men lames that travel. And I'm going to say it once again. Black men that travel are not lames. You have a right to have your own opinion, but if black men want to travel abroad to get better outcomes, that's their right. Because guess what? In the clinical world, needs drive behaviors. But all this shaming language that you hear from the PUAs about black men traveling is irreparable. Shout out to my man, the Ingram experience. That's my brother. Shout out Big 6'7". I'm 6'5", 6'6" with shoes on. You 6'7", man. So we're the basketball players. You're Kareem and I'm Sean Kemp. I'm Sean.
Oh yeah, we get it on, man. I tell you.
So Ingram, what do you think about this conversation? Sweet Lulu Bean is a perfect exemplar for what men are looking for in a woman in America, but because many of our women have been conditioned to be saboteurs of their own demise, it's going to come to their chagrin. What's your take on this discussion, the Ingram experience? Go check out my brother also. What's your take on it? And how do you feel about the conversation?
I think it's a great conversation. Obviously, women, can you hear me clearly?
I can hear you perfectly.
Sweet Lulu Bean and obviously Security Boss. I think the biggest thing with them is they're great women, but they represent an anomaly.
Okay.
In our community,
right?
Because if you look at the women on the panel, even when Security Boss was talking to them, you see Kay is staring into outer space, and the other women are, even if they're getting this knowledge and she's trying to help them resist knowledge, because they have been cultured all of their life in a matriarchal type culture,
right?
Where, you know, if you ever watch Animals in the Wild, you watch the hyenas. I mean, they're a matriarchal type culture, and even a newborn, that's just the way a newborn female born today has more status and ranking than a elder in that clan. And I think we resemble more like that. It's really hard to reprogram that without some drastic measures. And I think a lot of the women don't come. I think Sweet Lulu Bean also on Security Boss comes with the right mindset, but I think a lot of women are in these man spaces mostly because the marriage rates are dropped and they value marriage, not because they have any genuine interest in changing.
That's an excellent point. That's a very excellent point. Shout out to my man Ace. Ace, what would you like to add to the discussion, brother? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So I don't know. Unfortunately, I just think that we've reached a point where there may be a point of no return. They've done studies to where, as women have been relieved of like their house duties, in like now that we live in a more technologically advanced society, that pretty much women, you know, in first world countries have the ability to actually be feminist and quote unquote be independent. But it's in the third world countries, you know, in people that live in very harsh situations where we kind of revert, kind of when like the enemy's at the gates, things like that, when we actually revert to our actual gender roles. So that's something that I kind of think that, unfortunately, I mean, I don't know if we can go back or not. And then if you kind of look at something too, men of this present day have 60% less testosterone than that men of, I think, the 1950s.
Yes, sir. Excellent. Right.
Which a really good book to read by that is called Estrogeneration.
I love that. Good job.
So it kind of talks about, like, I spoke about this on another stream, how pretty much the hormonal birth control pill has kind of affected men, like, it's kind of contaminated the water. You'd have to really read a lot more into
No, I
it.
understand. I understand the theory behind it. Yes, sir. Good job.
So not only that, with the media and everything kind of inundating us, telling men to be more emotional, be more in touch with our feminine side, but yet you're telling females to be more powerful and go into the job market and climb the corporate ladder. Don't be afraid to stand up to a man. You can do exactly what a man does. And so, I mean, I don't know how far we've gotten to, or if we can even go back.
Well, I agree with you 100%, man. I think men are going to have to start doing what's best for them. That's why I bring these shows for clarity, insight, and wisdom. Men are going to have to start doing what's best for them. Men have been conditioned to be servants of the modern woman instead of being men. And you make some very valid points. Now, I'm not saying that some of the women that come to men's spaces are not genuine. I think there are some genuine women, but then you're correct. It could be a percentage that are coming into these spaces. And I'm going to say it again. It could be a percentage. And I'm going to say it for the third time. There could be a percentage that are coming in with ulterior motives, but that's neither here nor there. Testosterone is what makes men become masculine. So when you got low testosterone levels plus negative socialization, then you basically have a shell of a man. He's a man on the outside, but internally, mentally, and physically, he's becoming a woman. And it's unfortunate because men are better when they're the best versions of themselves. Technology, cell phones, radiation, environmental toxins has caused men to lose a lot of their masculinity. The church is not amplifying the importance of the gospel, as the Bible, in my opinion, is very red pill. And so I grew up in the church, and I know what the gospel say. I read it, and when I read the gospel is very patriarchal. And I keep telling women over and over again that men become the best versions of themselves when the man is flowing in his masculinity and the woman is flowing in her femininity. That's how they become better. And so there's a great awakening. Men are beginning to wake up. Alan Roger Curry wrote a book called The Beta Male Revolution. And men are beginning to wake up. Marriage rates are dropping precipitously. And there's an agenda. It's a very nefarious agenda, and it's been more or less prognosticated by global elites. But we're beginning to see things for what it is. And sadly, there are going to be a lot of women out in the cold because they forfeited their opportunity when they had great men instead of more or less working on it. Aziz, Ace made some excellent points. What's your take on the decline of Western culture and the modern woman? And do you feel that women from foreign countries like Africa, South Africa, where Sweet Lulu Bean is from, do you feel like those women are better suited to give you what you need as a man, brother?
I definitely agree with that. I do believe that if you get with a woman from more traditional lands, you can expect to get more traditional roles. One thing about men is that we have always been expected to be traditional, regardless.
Right.
Unless you have another sexual orientation, then you can become a modern man, modern family and all of that. But most people expect men to be traditional, to be what the design and what's defined as what masculinity and manhood is.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually fits with women that are from traditional countries or from traditional roles. And majority of that cannot be found here in America because the women have taken on another idea and actually have abandoned their post. They abandoned the traditional post and the traditional ways because they felt empowered by the new modern femininity and that thinking. It kind of gave them a doctrine, and it gave them a pedestal, And then what happened is that we reacted falsely to those ideas in the 80s, 90s, etc. And then at the end of the day, we're dealing with these results. But in order for us to become, to maintain our system and maintain the wholeness of masculinity and the tradition of masculinity, it's either the women's going to have to submit to their old ways and become traditional, or all of us, whether male or female, have to go to foreign lands and start learning something, or the men just have to go to the foreign lands and get the traditional women.
Right. What's your guys' take on Ingram and also Ace and Yaziz? There are some that says that if you want a woman to be in her femininity, because I'm going to do a psychological, well, not psychological, I'm going to do a clinical impression, because April Mason, it does a lot of good, but April Mason has some thinking errors, in my opinion, because she did a great job breaking down her advocacy for Black men and excoriating Black female behavior. But April Mason still is a product of the West. You heard it in her show with the lead attorney, where, and so I'm going to do a show called The Unconscious Pathologies of April Mason, because a lot of our women have the same unconscious pathologies, just like April Mason. April did some good things, but April did a lot of blaming when it comes down to the American male. So the question remains is, do you feel like if you put a woman in an environment where she can be feminine, she's more naturally able to submit to you and do the right thing? Or do you guys feel that's just a cop-out? I'm sorry.
Can I think it's a cop-out.
Go ahead, break it down, brother. Go ahead.
The first thing is you got to go back to the April Mason thing. And I watched that little pocket, that little show she had with the lead attorney. The first thing we have to address is delusion. We see it on social media every day, because remember, there's a whole different virtual world that men have to deal with today.
Right.
There's a lot of women that have virtual husbands. They have a husband at home, virtual husband. They have a work husband. They have all these different relationships with people, men, and other influences that affect relationships. But in terms of April Mason, I always find it interesting, like when women assign value in terms of relationships, and this disconnect that they have between sexual attention, a guy wanting to get laid. Like, okay, it's Friday night, it's 10:30, my 11 o'clock's not going to show up, and they give a woman a call, they want to come over to have sex. They assume that means relationship value, and that we want to marry that woman. And I think the big misconception with even April Mason is she's making all these claims, I can get married when I want, all this stuff. But you're not setting we set the market for marriage. And we determine whether a woman is marriage worthy or not, just the way they determine whether they would accept our proposal, because they set the market in terms of which men they would marry. But we set the market in terms of what we want is what we see as wifely qualities. Right. And I think that's where the disconnect between men and women, because we will have sex with a bunch of women that we will not marry. There's just two different values that there's a big misconception. So I think the disconnect there is between women getting sexual energy from men and actually men giving them real relationship value, because they don't communicate with men enough to get our opinions, because they live in a bubble and they probably got a bunch of guys hitting their DMs or giving them a certain energy. Right. These are not the guys that they want.
Right. I agree. I agree with that. And so the question is, Ace, what do you think about it? Some women believe that you put a woman into a feminine environment, and the man is doing everything to reduce her stress, then she's going to be more feminine. And I say that's a misnomer. I think there are a lot of nuances to that, because this is what I believe. I need you guys to listen. If a woman has been imprinted by multiple men, I don't give a damn if you put her in a castle. She's been imprinted, and unless she do a spiritual detox, and it's going to take some time, and go through therapy, she's only going to become a replication of who she already was. So I don't believe that by default, just putting a woman in an environment where she can more or less operate in her femininity means she's going to submit to your authority as a man. I would say that women 60 years ago, women that were not impacted by dusty men, because some of these women got with dusty, damaged men, and these dusty, damaged men made them damaged. And because so many, wanted the right to be sexually liberated, that's your right. You can do what you want to do. Now you have been impacted by dusty men. And so when you've been with all these different men and all these different energies inside your vessel, now you're damaged. So the gospel said you can't take new wine and put it into old wineskin. The vessel must be changed. So how can you give a woman an environment that's conducive to her femininity when she's been so damaged? Your grandmother and your great-great-grandmother were not damaged like the modern woman. And then listen, there were some thoughts that were, from mama and grandmama too. But I'm talking about as a Gen Xer, I'm 50. I'm from the rural South. My mom wasn't a thought. My mom was a virgin when she got married, and so was my grandma. So they were better suited to be exemplars in the community and the home. And even then, it still wasn't 100% guaranteed. So, guys, what's your take on when April Mason, some women say, well, men got to pay all the bills and they got to put her in an environment where she can be more feminine. Now, I do understand what men say that if you put in that environment, she got to keep her weight down. She got to give you sex on demand. She got to keep your house clean and cook. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's actually good. I think that's excellent. But you guys have seen over and over again, just because a man put a woman in an environment that's conducive to her femininity, if she's been imprinted by dusty, damaged men, it really doesn't mean a damn thing. What's your take on it?
Well, I mean, to kind of really reiterate your point, see, whenever we talk about hypergamy, we always talk about the beta need side of hypergamy. But see, that's where you see all these gold diggers and a lot of these women, they're happy with, having all those things provided for them, but they're not getting sexually satisfied for that man. And see, that's how they ruin themselves, by going out with all these, dusty, dudes and things like that, because when they're younger, they're actually fulfilling their alpha C type of side of hypergamy and not concentrating on the security.
Right.
So yeah, that's just kind of my take on it.
Right. So it sounds like to me that you don't believe that if a man put a woman in a perfect environment, that she's going to automatically be a feminine woman and operate in her femininity.
No, and just to really, I completely agree. I mean, I don't even know if it would take a soul detox, because the thing is it just seems like sometimes once we've, adopted a certain behavior for over 20 years, I mean, decades, it's can you actually reverse that behavior? So that's the thing that we're dealing with.
Excellent. What do you think about it, Aziz? What do you think about this ongoing phenomena where women are actually trying to broker their femininity, do something called conditional femininity? And they're saying that, okay, if you put the woman in the perfect environment where she don't have to be stressed out, she's going to automatically be feminine. Because this is what I believe. I believe the women, when this country was evolving, were hardworking women. And I still believe that they were feminine. They may not then work outside of the home. But they did work within the home, and the world was more agrarian. So when you take an agrarian culture where the women they were chopping wood with the men, they were taking care of the home, they were having babies in the field, but they were still feminine. So how is the woman of the past that were doing all of those things where times were a lot harder versus the women now that have not been through what the women like their grandmothers and their great-grandmothers been through, but yet they say, well, I can't be feminine because I'm in a different environment. So Aziz, I want you to break it down. Then I want J.L. Menelik. He's, J.L. Menelik to come in and chop up some game with us, because we want to hear him and his pronunciations about this discussion. Go ahead, Aziz.
Yeah. So that's going to be almost highly impossible. Even though I know that we are an ecology of people and we influence each other based on environments. If the thing that causes a woman to be able to adjust herself is her virtuosity, which is her her ability to hold herself to high moral standards. Right. If she never had to hold herself to moral standards, and her whole relationship or her whole lifestyle was also transient, it's going to be difficult for her to go into a relationship and keep something that is eternal, just to have a never-ending relationship until she dies. So in that essence, if you take a woman, right, the thing that's going to determine, when someone says when you repent, it's not the day that you repent that's going to determine if you repented, but it's 15 years later, 20 years later, if you're still doing the same thing.
Right. I see your point. Right.
Yeah. So your allegiance is always determined by your acts of obedience. It's the acts of obedience that determines your allegiance. So if a woman cannot maintain an act of obedience according to standards and morals that men places upon them, those values, then it's impossible for her to say, you have to give me the money or this and that in order for me to be this way, because a woman is not designed to be given everything in order for her to act right. Actually, spoiling her, you can never get her back right again, because spoiled milk will never become right again. So the truth of the matter is that a woman would literally have to be dutiful. She have to be obedient. She'll have to work a lot. She'll have to continue to want to validate herself to that man, constantly seeking that validation in order for you to see her consistency. Outside of that, I mean, it's a waste of time, because everything else is just lip movement.
Right. J. Lion Menelik, Haile Selassie was a descendant of King Menelik, and he had the spirit of the mongoose. What's your take on foreign women having the spirit of the mongoose compared to Western women? And what should be the recourse for modern or Western men as it relates to finding traditional wives? What's your take on that, brother?
Oh,
Yes.
I think that in the West, I think that it's the environment, and I don't think that there's a woman that can turn on femininity, either she has it or she doesn't. So I think that it comes naturally. So I think that you can see this even with Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, whatever, and you can see that he has wealth, but the woman still doesn't act right. So I don't think that,
right.
Wherever your bank account, your bank account is not going to change the culture.
That's right.
So it doesn't really matter. So so that's my opinion. A lot of the women wasn't raised in a culture that was that. And I think in the West, whether you're in the UK, in America or Canada or wherever you are, then you had all those movements. You had that sexual revolution, and had all these different feminism movements and different versions of the feminism and stuff. So I think it's so far gone. You look at I think it's only 40% of all American men, I think, in North America, are married. Then 30% of black men are married. So it's pretty bad.
Right. I like what Christopher Daly said, and he's correct. I like what Christopher Daly said. He said Scandinavia is a perfect example of this theory not being true. Everything here is made easier for women to be feminine, yet women here are more manly and rabid feminists than the ones in the United States. And they've been talking about the decline in Scandinavian countries as well. Theology actually talks about that it's the heart of a man. And listen, I do believe that having the right environment can help a woman be more feminine. I do believe it can help, but I don't believe that's alone is the elixir to making a woman feminine. Because women years ago they were hard workers because it was agrarian. They chopped cotton. It was hard work, but they always saw their duty to serve their husband, their family, as being noble. Not saying it was easy.
Proverbs 31.
Right. But I think those women, even back times when we didn't have nowhere near the tech, it seemed like, guys, we got more now and the women demand more. The women back in the past had to do everything manually. But women now have more, but it's like they have, the women back then had less, but they did more. Women now have more, but they do less. What's your take on that?
You want me to just respond to that?
Yeah, go ahead, Ingram. Go ahead, brother.
That's the fundamental problem. They do less now, they want more, but they also come to the table with imprint from the past. I mean, if you deal with okay, I'm a 47-year-old guy. My youngest kid is 21. I'm retired already. I live a pretty peaceful, happy life. So for me, am I going to take on a woman that has a lot of baggage, a lot of issues to bring to the table when I live a pretty comfortable life? Or in a situation women even with April Mason, I'm sure she's had her imprints from the past. So you're taking on other people's problems, other people's issues, maybe other people's kids. their personal problems, and the ability to be that feminine woman or be that woman that's going to add that value. The question you have to worry about, has that been tampered with by being with all these guys, all these different, because women, I mean, there's a spiritual side and there's of having sex, there's an energy that's passed along from person to person. And there's issues that can develop. And I guess that's why you're here to co-share with the therapy, is that's carried. You'll get a woman or even a man that's my age. The question is, what are you taking on? Or even a woman that's 30. Has she been sleeping with the Pookies, the Tyrones? Has she been with 20 guys that have imprinted upon her? So you're getting that woman, and she's not already in her original state because she's been imprinted on, and she's had to pair bond with all these guys. Right. How is she going to pair bond with you? It's gone. How do you pair bond over and over again? You know what I mean? So that's the problem with the femininity part, is they're talking to women that have been through the ringers already, and you're trying to reprogram that, something that you can't get your innocence back. Yeah.
Well, I will say it definitely makes it harder. I'm not going to say it's she can't, but it's a lot harder.
It's definitely harder.
The more she pairs with, and especially if she had the big O, it's a lot harder, man. But go ahead, brother.
You mean with me?
Who else?
Yeah, so that's what I mentioned earlier in the show, that the more technologically prosperous and advanced that a society is, women kind of deviate away from their gender roles, because they even talked about how when the washing machine came out, women didn't have to wash clothes anymore. Also what they talk about in today's society too. Like, women, they don't know how to cook, they don't know how to clean, they don't know how to, do any of those traditional roles. And whenever I've, been talking to women, and I've kind of voiced out, hey, I would like a woman that cooks or something like that. And she's like, well, why don't we just hire a chef or hire
Right. I like
they
that.
just want to throw that excuse.
Right.
So women don't realize whenever men only use them for sex, it's their fault. Because think about it, you don't know how to cook, you don't know how to clean, you're aggressive, you're always fighting back. So it's like, what value do you bring to me other than just sex? And it's sad, but it is what it is.
No, man, you make some excellent points. There's an old saying that says, in tough times bring tough men, and good times bring weak men. And so there's a lot of truth to that. And it's unfortunate. Shout out to my man, the Casual Observer, for the $10 and the $2 super chat. He said April is saying black women will act feminine for money. And that's basically, yeah, I agree. It sounds like conditional femininity, because April is trying to say that it's the panacea for a woman to be feminine. And I'm saying it's more than that. It's more nuanced than just money. It's money, it's culture, it's her being imprinted by bad men. It's a myriad of things. Money is just one of them. But it's not just money alone, because money does not heal the ills of a lot of men. If money was the answer to all problems, then why do we have so much dysfunction in our society? So I agree with you guys. 100%. But starting with you, Yaziz, and I'm going to end the show in a few minutes because I have to go. What's your take on the spirit of the mongoose? When you think about the spirit of the mongoose, have you seen women in your community actively stand for the rights of black men as it relates to respect, honor, and obedience? What's your take on the spirit of the mongoose?
No, I've in our community, I'm from a family of 10. It's 5 boys and 5 girls, right? Both from the same mother and same father.
Good.
And my sisters, being from this environment, they're just like the rest of the women out in the world. I haven't seen that spirit. So my mother, you will always cook. She kept the house clean. She raised us properly. She did everything that we're supposed to do, because my mother, she grew up on a sharecropper's farm, during the 1960s. So she had a certain type of way about her. But for some odd reasons, and my mother, she went to Sister Claire Muhammad School, and her education was only up to 8th grade. But that still put her in position to become manager and everything else, because she was dutiful. She always knew how to work. She knew how to carry the supporter's burden or the supporter's stress, while my father was carrying the provider's stress.
Right.
So women today don't feel like they have to carry a support of stress in a
I like that.
relationship,
I like that. I
right?
like that.
Yeah. So if they don't carry a supportive stress, if they're not dutiful, that's why the pimp always say, even if your leg is broke, you got to hop on your good foot. Like,
Mm,
still get your foot on the Av, because they keep them working, because they don't want them to have an idle mind, because they'll start thinking of ways and conjuring up ways to try to manipulate and get out of a situation.
mhm.
So in that situation, I haven't seen it from my sister, but when I traveled to Senegal, I traveled to Zimbabwe, even though they're colonialized and they have their Western way, that tradition, that way of their aunts, the way of their home, it's still there at their core, and they're going to always revert to that way of how they were raised, even over their Western ways. So I haven't seen that in even my sisters here in the Western culture, but definitely overseas, you see it all day. Even if they're Westernized somewhat, you will still get the tradition and the culture out of that woman.
No, I agree with that, man. I think tradition and culture is paramount to all of it, and I think our culture is so broken and decadent, and our culture we have a culture where men are conditioned to defer their power. Ace made some very good points, and so shout out to Ace for coming on, man. You make some excellent points, and then also with dropping testosterone levels, it makes it even worse. Men, I think men are a shell of what they were 20, 30 years ago. What culture are you from, brother? Are you from South Africa? Are you from Africa?
No, I'm actually from here. I'm actually from here, from the States. I was born in Philly, but raised in Georgia, but raised majority of my time, teenage years in Georgia.
Oh, Georgia. Okay, okay, okay. All right,
Yes.
all right. Now you seem young. You seem about what, 40,
Yeah,
35?
I'm 46.
You don't look it, man. Actually, I was thinking.
You look young, man.
Yeah, you look. Yeah, and I remember you told me that you look very young. I thought you were about 35, so you look
Gotcha.
very young. Are you married? If you were you ever married? And what's your take on these modern women?
Yeah. I've been married. First relationship went for about, probably about 19 years. But of course, within those 19 years, I had to deal with a lot because I was dealing with a more Western woman, So I had to deal with a whole lot. And you're talking about, even the whole process of understanding myself going through my 20s, only because of the time the time I was born, our whole thing was that from high school, you wanted to get with somebody and you wanted to roll through life. But then with certain type of ideas, certain type of television shows, etc., even the woman that you get with, she might start off cooking, taking care of the household, you have children, she'll play those roles, but that seed will get in her mind like a cancer, and it festers. So by the time you get closer to your 30s, she gets closer to her 30s, or even in her 20s, she starts having delusions of grandeur. It's almost like she went to the tree, and that serpent, he presented himself to be a tree desired to make one wise.
Right.
So she bit the pedestal bait, and she put herself on a pedestal and thought she was above me. But if you see her outcomes and her end results in comparison to me, what I did is say, you know what? This is the end of the line for me dealing with Western women. A few dates after that, I was like, nah, you know what? I need to travel. So of course I went to Venezuela, I went to Senegal, went to Israel, Egypt, went down to Botswana, South Africa, Zimbabwe, traveled with my brother. And then I see my elder brother actually get a Zimbabwean woman and marry a Zimbabwean woman. I was there even for his when he had to do his negotiation, because how he had damaged the culture by getting her pregnant too early. But she immediately went to her father and made sure that all that was correct, and he had to pay the damages. He had to pay
That's
Lavona, which means he
powerful.
had to pay for the cows. And
That's
I was a part
powerful,
of the
man.
entire negotiation. So when I saw that, and I saw how
Wow, that's
she then
powerful.
how she submitted herself and how she took care of him, I was like, and even though her mind, she was educated, she went to good schools and everything, she was still from Zimbabwe. And
Right.
when I saw how she dealt with him, I was like, you know what? This is over with. I can't go back. There's
Right,
no going
right.
back.
It's no going back, right? And I saw it firsthand, even though I've been married for 26 years, but as a casual observer, no pun intended, casual observer. But as a casual observer, I saw it firsthand. I was talking to a woman, and we was talking casually, and this, also talking with the men, and the woman clearly said, she said that I obey my husband, and my man tell me to do something, I obey him. And I'm gonna tell you something, guys. When you're dealing with toxic Western women, it will lower your testosterone, and it'll send
That's
you
right.
to a damn early grave.
That's
And
right.
and you just don't need it, man. It's better to have your peace. you are a walking epistle, Aziz, about the nature of being around feminine women, but also traveling abroad. So from your experiences in Zimbabwe to Israel, and the other countries, what was the Venezuela? Which country treated you the most? Which country treated you better? And did any of those women want to marry you?
Yeah, in the Southern African region is where I got treated the best. You know, Venezuela has its own issues with a lot of men getting body parts being like women. They can trick you over there. You know, there's a lot of beautiful women, but you can get tricked over there. But when you go to more of in the Southern African region, and that consists of like 9 different countries down there, Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, etc., you get a whole different type of experience because what you get down there is somewhat different. Now, you have a small group of women that will go to the club and looking for the big shark, right? But majority of women, I'm talking about upwards probably of 90%, when they find a man, right, it doesn't matter your position or condition, even financially. It's all about your manhood character, right? When they find a man, immediately what they'll do is that they'll invest. They search out and they invest, meaning that they'll put the work behind you, whatever your hustle is, they'll help you multiply it. They'll work to get to, and so both of y'all can get to where you need to. Hey, the kids need school fees. We need to do this. We need to get this land and built. And they'll also they'll work hard. Matter of fact, you'll find that they're like the lioness. They'll work a lot of times a little harder than the men do. But they know that all of it belongs to the man who is head, which in turn belongs to the entire family. And I see my brother's wife do this. He opened up 3 or 4 businesses for my brother with his idea, and I've seen that. You know.
So it sounds like to me that her education does not supersede her duty as a wife.
Definitely not at all. The intelligence, the education, none of that supersedes their duty as matter of fact, even before being a wife, her role as a woman. You know, even before a wife, her role as a woman, because they approach you with womanhood. The thing that's lacking in America is that you have females with a female sexual organ. They call themselves women, and they've never learned how to become women, or they've abandoned what womanhood is.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. Shout out to my man, the casual observer. No pun intended, as I spoke earlier. Black women want you to pay 100%, or she's going to be independent. What's your take on that, Ace, and then Mark?
So pretty much something I wanted to add earlier. I had some technical difficulties. To me, a lot of the modern women are liabilities, you know, besides the things that we just mentioned earlier. But one of the most important things I think is, see, now that women are being conditioned to focus on their careers and kind of sow the royal oats in like their, you know, in their college years, you know, from 18 to 23 or whatever that may be. Well, when they quote unquote tell themselves and convince themselves around age 30, oh, I'm going to settle down, and already being imprinted by all these guys. Well, let's say she finds a man that she wants to marry, about 80% of her eggs are gone. So not only does she come with these other liabilities, but can she even continue your bloodline? Why would you invest in a woman like that?
That's an excellent point, man. So it sounds like to me that men in America, when they deal with most Western women, are basically getting diminished returns.
Exactly.
They got miles on their mind.
but you're right though. They have miles on their mind, but also miles on their body. You know, and listen, I'm not here to scoria anyone. God can forgive anybody, but Paul said all sins are done. All other sins are done outside the body, but he said fornication and adultery is done with the body. And I'm not trying to push religion, but it makes a lot of sense. Women, they have had a lot of fun. Many times they're not mentally stable. They're not. It doesn't impact men the same way it impacts women, because women are vessels. They are vessels, and so you're taking the spirit of multiple men inside of you. So how in the hell can you be the best version of yourself for your man if you've been imprinted by so many bad men? So you cleave to one man, then you break apart. So for every man you have sex with spiritually, that's your husband. So by the time you get to the man you were supposed to be with, you could have had 40 or 50 husbands. So how can you submit to him when you submit to 40 men in your head? You can't submit.
And then you can't even have his children. You can't even bear his children because most of your eggs are gone.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
The key,
Right. Mhm. I
But that's
because
see
the
that.
key, the
Go
key
ahead.
is about being valuable.
Mhm.
I remember I was watching the show when Brittany Renner said she had 33 men. What's wrong with that? And it's like, wow, you had HAD 33 men. Not that you still have one of them, but you had 33 men,
Right.
which means that if 33 men had access to you, there's nothing to value that. There's nothing that is rare.
Right.
There's nothing to be sought after. Because if I need to understand and experience, I can just go talk to 5 of those men.
Mhm.
I don't even have to go to 33.
And the sad thing is, man, if she got one that really rocked her world or gave her toe curling orgasms, that dopamine rush, she's going to try to replicate that. And so, say you come and make love to her, you having sex like the Lone Ranger, you can't do nothing. You going away. You like Tonto. We said, "How old, Silver?" Away. You going like 100 miles per hour,
Well,
and you can't do nothing for her because she's been
Coach Sherry,
over it.
brother, you also making love to all them dudes she's been with. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, what is, what
Yeah,
is the value
that's
you're
true.
getting? But the biggest thing about it is like when you're trying to, like at this point where April Mason and even Security Boss, who's a very feminine woman, you're coming in trying to teach women femininity, which should be their nature. How do you
Right. I
teach
see your point.
something its nature? So my thing is, it's all fake femininity because the marriage rate are dropping. Women want to be married because they look at marriage as security,
Mhm.
but they don't really respect Black men in
They don't.
America
They don't.
because they've been conditioned that they're better than us and we're supposed
Right.
to serve them.
Right.
And you can't reprogram that. So
Mhm.
that's why when the brothers go overseas and they see men are being respected by these other cultures, it's like a shock to them, I'm sure. But there's also other elements in terms of when you marry a woman, also when you're with a woman, you also marry her entourage, her friends, her family. And if you look beyond her and she has these masculine aunts and moms and grandma, they ain't got no man, they're all single, they're in her ear every day.
Mhm.
So what you see beyond her is usually what she is, which is, and this fake femininity thing it's not real. They don't like the 24% marriage rate. I mean, there's no security in that. There's no resources in that. But that guy who you should have picked when you were 18, 19, 20, 23 years old, when you ran off with Pookie and Ray Ray, that guy's the engineer now. He's the accountant now. He's the money guy. He's the guy with security. And so it becomes not about becoming better women for Black men.
Mhm.
It becomes about presenting fake femininity to get security.
Boom. Right. You hit it
I
on the
love
head,
that.
brother.
Great point.
Excellent. You're right. I was literally about to say security, and you said it right.
So really, it's not really about us. It's really about, okay, I'm retired and I have a pension. They'll probably go to the grave with me. I mean, it's not going to be passed on to any woman.
Well, Michael Jackson said that they don't really care about us.
They don't care about us. I mean, so you go to another culture where women have been indoctrinated from birth to be feminine, to be family, to be mothers, to be wives. You don't have to fight anything. You don't have to convert femininity. You don't have to do all that rubbish that they do in this country because that's what they've been indoctrinated to be at from the time they were born.
No, you're correct. The gospel said, train up a child in a way that he or she will go, and when they become old, they won't depart from it. You got to have a culture to harness the intrinsic, which is nature versus nurture. It's called nature and nurture. Nature and nurture are the linchpins to the evolution and the socialization of men and women. But when one is off kilter, then everything is going to be off kilter. And you're correct. Most of our women have not seen masculine authority and power because a lot of the women have shunned masculine authority and power. And our boys have not seen masculinity and or masculine men. Therefore, they defer power instead of demanding power. And so I think we're at a crossroad. I'm going to start a series called the Gen X Nexus. And it's going to talk about the times where the world started to take a negative turn. And Ingram, I want you on it. You can pop in. I'm going to do a series of shows. I got a lot of things. I got a lot of fire that I got coming up, man. But your generation, my generation, Ingram, and also Yaziz, we saw the decline of what you're seeing now. The gospel said that things will get worse and worse. I don't see it getting any better. You know, I can basically pick out women that are, you know, I know game when I see it. I don't say anything. But if I was a single man again in my 20s, I mean, not my 20s, I said my 20s. Wow. If I was a single man again at this age now, it would take a special, very special woman to be my woman. She would have to come 100% correct. And so I listened to what Yaziz was saying, and he's correct. And then I want Ace to answer the question. But it appears to me, Yaziz, that women that are under masculine authority and where they have to pay a dowry for a wife, it appears that those women are better suited to be wives. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
It's definitely.
Tell me why.
Ahead.
Tell me why in your opinion. Go ahead.
Oh, hold on. Y'all can hear me?
Yeah. Hold on for a minute, Supreme Car. I'm gonna let you talk. But go ahead, Yaziz. Finish saying what you were saying, brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's definitely much better. Only the reason why is because the reason why you're paying that dowry. Imagine, imagine a woman or children at a house, or a woman around the house. If a man has a daughter, and the mother is training that daughter how to clean up the house, how to make the food, how to maintain the environment that she's also maintaining. So she has a daughter as a helpmate, right? And you as a man is coming to take that daughter. You're taking burden. You're taking someone who's cleaning. She might have to replace that with a maid, and they have to pay for the maid. You're taking all that away. So in Africa, the exchange for it was beasts of burdens, which were cows. Right now, nowadays it's monetized in money.
Right.
So a father would say something like, "Listen, my daughter used to sit on my lap and rub my beard, but now you're going to become her man. You're going to become her authority. She won't be allowed to do that to me anymore. How are you going to pay? How are you going to pay for that?"
Right. I like that. Right.
You get what I'm saying? So what it is that they make sure that their daughter is worthy enough for a bride price to be paid. Because if she isn't worthy, it's a great embarrassment for a man to return her to a home and say, "I need my dowry back."
Oh, I see your point. Excellent. Right.
Yeah, there's accountability. You know what's so funny?
Right.
As a father of boys, if you're bringing me your unsoiled daughter to be my son's wife, I'm going to pay you your money. At the end of the day, I'm saying, look, here's your dowry, man. You know, at the end of the day, I pay you your money, baby. I'm gonna give the man his money because you're providing, you're carrying, my legacy is carrying on in a woman and my son. You know, so hey, I'm gonna pay the man his dowry. He's giving me a woman that's a virgin that's gonna marry my boys. I mean, I'll take the deal.
Oh yeah, I would do it. If I was single, I would pay a dowry. I sure as hell would. I would. I'll pay $20,000 for a dowry. I sure would in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'll pay today. You know what I mean?
Because if things go wrong, my brother's family and her family, they got to come together and talk about it. You just can't just exit and say, "Oh, I just want to divorce. I'm out the door."
Right. No fault divorce.
Yeah.
Right.
Because don't nobody want to give no money back.
Right. It's a cost. It's a cost. It's a cost. Supreme Khan, then Ace. When you think about the spirit of the Mongoose were like women like Fannie Lou Hamer, like Lulu Bing from South Africa, but also security boss Unsolicited. I think I said the name right. But security boss Unsolicited. When you think about the spirit of the Mongoose, what does that mean to you? And also, what does it mean to why is that so necessary in the Black community as our community appears to be declining, in your opinion, bro?
You say like with the Mongoose, like you could name to me the characteristics because I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not so familiar with that animal.
Right. So that's fine. So a mongoose is an animal that's very resilient. It's a watchman, but also a mongoose will sniff out snakes and destroy it. Fake femininity has been seen as a spirit of the serpent, but the spirit of the mongoose is the antithesis to the spirit of the snake, which is fake femininity and which is the Jezebel spirit. So when you have the mongoose spirit, just like a mongoose is, if a snake bites it, it falls down, but because it's been designed to keep fighting, it gets back up again. That's the spirit of the mongoose. The snake represents Western women. The mongoose represents foreign traditional women. So why is the spirit of the mongoose needed, in your opinion?
Well, what's kind of funny is like when we're talking about with the United States, for example, when it comes to black people, this was done by design. How we have it with women and how it is even with some men. Like at the end of the day, in the Willie Lynch letter, it was pretty much made that since they notice how women's minds is like how a horse is, if you actually train the horse, the horse will train up the children, and it will keep you will basically make a permanent underclass or servants just in doing so. And so like how we see it as is with the like with that sort of spirit, it's not going to exist 9 times out of 10 in the American woman, only because they have been made really. And in fact, I remember BGS had mentioned this before. um the woman in America, the black woman in America specifically, has never understood or never been under male leadership when it comes to the black man. So therefore this was something that was put there by design, and you can see that just in how things is today. But again, it's as I said before, this was to make a permanent underclass, because if you have a broken family and the dynamic is all messed up, where the father is not the father, this is someone who's just a partner, and the woman is head of household, then that automatically ruins the chances for there to be some sort of black kind of power dynamic. Because whenever we're talking about power, we're talking about something that takes generations to build. When a lot of black people have children, they don't see their child actually as a legacy like how other cultures do. They see them more as pets. Like, I feed and I clothe my pet. I take care of my cat. I put food and water, right for the dog, and then sometimes I might dress it up. But there's never the idea of investment for the future. So when you look at how it is for the Western woman, this is the mindset that follows. It's more lines like the legacy does not matter. This is more of a meal ticket. This is more of a money grab. This is something that is just nice to have because it's like an accessory.
Right.
And the men follow suit in the sense of this is how you raise the buck. Like just born without no plan. So like when other cultures deal with us, there's that dynamic of they know that this is a permanent underclass. And not to stray off, just to get into the point of like with the with how women are in our society, like within the Western world, and how it goes with that mongoose. It's like the mongoose mentality. It's not there just only because this is by design. Usually, like pretty much we like the whole panel right here, I've been basically talking about how it's literally not even in their mindset. Like there's women having to be taught femininity by other women.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. But also too, there is men that have to be taught masculinity because the dynamic of how women have been the head of household. So therefore they're not even actually in their femininity. And so by default, if they're head of household and they're usually, and since we have a huge single mother community, then that means it puts everybody out of balance. So it literally keeps a permanent underclass. So that mindset of how the mongooses can't even settle in. You at that point, like just how it is, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to see that in America. And I mean, you just have a better chance of getting water out of rock at that point if you're looking for it. I mean, that's like a unicorn. So
right.
That's basically where I stand with it and what I've seen. And so it's just like when he was talking about with seeing women from different places, it's because they understand legacy and they see relationships as a duty, just like how the men do. So like that's not something that's native to here with black people.
Right. And it's unfortunate, man, because I like what you said, man, about how it was by design, because it's definitely going to become it's going to be at the detriment, sadly, of the black community. And it appears that it's getting more and more precipitous. It appears to be getting worse and worse. To the guys that are listening, guys, please share the content. To the 31 that are listening, please share the content. You guys have been doing an awesome job. I'm about to sign off in a minute because I have patience to see. We've been in this stream for about 3 hours and 14 minutes. It's been a great conversation. But real quick, to Ace, and maybe you did answer the question. What do you think about the spirit of the mongoose and why is it needed? Why is the spirit of the mongoose needed to eradicate the negative ravages of fake femininity and the spirit of the serpent? Why is the mongoose spirit needed, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, just to, I think we all listed it already. And then the question is too, is how big are the snakes? And the reason why I asked this is because now that we live in a gynocentric social order, it's not just the snakes around your woman or around you, but those up in positions of authority. So where I'm going with this is, and especially you'll see where we talk about this being by design. If you notice, 60% of the student body in universities is females, and they're starting to take over the social sciences and things like that. And so where I'm going with this is, I don't know if you've seen where the American Psychology Association has deemed traditional masculinity as some kind of behavioral sickness also.
You're right, I have. Yes, sir.
And then not just that, but it's not just that, but also things like stoicism and things like that. So it's like the question is, how big are the snakes that we're able to deal with? And so that's why I was kind of wondering earlier, is it going to have to take a great disaster, a great reset for everything to kind of go back to normal?
Right.
I think the reset is here, though, Coach. Right. Coach, I think what's happening now, if you look at Generation Z and you look at the marriage rates, I mean, obviously 54% of Black men are single and unwed. I mean, you have the 30% marriage rate, and you have guys like me who are just rogue. I don't even put whatever category I'm in. I don't know. I have no idea. And what happens is, when human beings respond to incentives, okay? Because if men are not buying into this fake femininity, you can't shame guys like me anymore. Like, you can't call me, the usual Black women tactics is, who hurt you? Are you gay? All these little crazy stuff that they say. You can't shame somebody into a negative. It's very difficult. And Gen Z don't care. They will literally stay in their virtual world and they won't participate. So, that type of resistance has happened already. But what happens is, I think Black men, out of loyalty to their mothers and their family, still give Black women Black American women, that first refusal. Mm-hmm. So guys haven't really exercised their relationship capitalism. Most young Black men that are successful and hardworking can afford to go overseas and find women that are traditional, Black women or any kind of race women that are traditional, that meet the standard. So that hasn't happened yet. But as far as guys checking out, it's already happening.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you know what, man? There was something about how April Mason and her sister tried to get 2 innocent Black men arrested over false allegation. I was reading something. And that's why I said that even April Mason, on surface, she brings some good clarity, but she's still been westernized by the West. And I'm going to do a show on that at some point called The Unconscious Pathologies of April Mason and the Western Woman. Because even though on surface she says she's advocating for Black men and she's saying she's holding Black women accountable, she still has a lot of negative things inside of her that needs to be dealt with, because she still have a level of disdain for Black men, unfortunately. And that's why I tell men, continue to focus on yourself, man. Continue to love yourself. Journal, write, reflect in your journal. Get your health up. Take care of your mind, man, because that's going to be the thing that's going to help you take things to the next level. So real quick, anybody else want to add to the conversation before I end? Yaziz or Supreme Court, anything else, man?
Yeah,
go ahead, brother.
I did want to add, it is actually getting to a serious detriment. First of all, there's a lot of Black women who's missing, and I mean like straight up kidnapped or just never heard from again. The surge has actually gone up. And what's even worse too is just like, again, the United States, in fact internationally, there's a huge need for organs. Like, we all understand that there is a black market for organs. The organs that actually cost the most and is worth the most is, well, they come from Black women. Where, like, pretty much, where do we think that, you know, melatonin and the stem cells for, you know, a lot of different medicines come from? And so this has been by design again, where it's just like, if you have a whole bunch of test subjects, you have a bunch of people who is organ donors just like that, because there's no power structure, there's no protection in place. And we're in a society where, again, we're assimilated. We're not. It's not like how it is with Asians or Arabs or anybody else who they have like a community structure where they answer to a government specifically, or they have a government backing them. We're talking about like with indigenous people, there is not really that kind of protection going on, and it's just continuing to get worse because again, with how the family is broken up, there is not really much protection. So a lot of black people is kind of at the mercy of this society, unfortunately. And so this is kind of the result of it, with a lot of black women being missing. And unfortunately, a lot of them will not be found because a good amount of them have basically been harvested for their organs.
Oh no, brother, I believe that. I definitely believe that the black organs are superior, and while that's another topic, I agree with you 100%, and that's why masculine authority and masculinity is so needed. The world is getting worse. Automation is on the rise. They got this new variant coming out. I'm not going to say it on the internet, but we're about to go through a social tailspin, and it's all scripted, in my opinion. But I'm not going to talk about that because we're getting to the esoteric. But this has been a good show, guys. Real quick, what did you guys get out of the show? Real quick, starting with. Go ahead, Kyle.
I
Go ahead,
want to go in. I want to go in closing because I have to make a run real quick. This is
I have to go too. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely it's a definitely great show. What I got out of it is it's important for us to understand that we cannot continue to go down the wrong road because it'll never get right. And instead of we don't need any more reports about what's actually taking place, etc. We have to now take it upon ourselves and change the tides as men. If we're men, we have to stand up and be men and start changing the tides. We have to change our direction and let everybody follow us, or we're going to continue to follow in a direction of this decadence. That's all I wanted to say.
No doubt. Much love and blessings, man. Thank you for the super chat. And, man, thank you for your support, man. You're a good brother, man. I love it when you guys come on. Guys, please, about 3 of y'all have shared the content. If you don't have anything to add, I get it. Sometimes people just don't have money, and I'm okay with that. But if you share the content, it helps my channel grow. When you tell about 5 or 10 people, and Tim have always dropped the link, it helps me grow. Sharing my content actually means more to me than money because you're getting the message out. And so these shows are rare. I think I'm the only or one of the few black therapists that you have in this space that more or less see things from a multi-dimensional perspective. So I count what I do serious. I've taken 3 hours out of my schedule as a therapist to do these shows. And I do it because I love to see you guys empowered, and also because I love the brotherhood. And I want to see men, especially black men, go on the path that's going to give them the best outcomes, because when men suffer in silence, it becomes a detriment not only to themselves, but also to their communities. So real quick, Ingram, what did you get out of this show, brother? How was it beneficial? And please share the content, guys. Please share. If you share it with the 31 on the list, I need 31 people to share this content. Hit the 1 if you shared it, but all 31 share the content. But Mark, real quick, Ingram, real quick, what'd you get from the conversation? Then we're gonna go with Ace. And Ace, I like you, man. I like your thinking process, man. I love your thoughts, Ace. You're a deep brother, man. Maybe one day you'll cam up. But I love your thinking process. But real quick, Ingram, then Ace, and then also Supreme Car. What did you get out of the show, and how was it beneficial? Real quick.
It's beneficial because it highlights a lot of the issues that we're having in the community, the disconnect, this issue with femininity. It gives a male perspective. It helps to empower men, but it also highlights the reality that women themselves have to come to the table with something else other than femininity. I mean, the brothers are onto it. So, and we talked about the brother who's talking about women and the organs issue. We have a lot of uncovering in our community, and we have designed this for ourselves, and that's something that needs to fix. But we have to start culturing kids from young. I think with our generation, the only thing we can do is educate the youngsters that are still young and change the culture that way.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Ace, what did you get from this show, The Spirit of the Mongoose? What did you get from it?
I mean, just a lot, just what I see around me. It's, of course, day by day I'm getting more aware, but I just really want to thank you because, a lot of people in your field of being a clinician, things like that, it just seems like they automatically default to the gynocentric social order.
Yes, sir.
And then
Right.
feel lost. That they really do because, they try to solve their, psychological issues or whatever by talking to like a female therapist or like maybe even a male therapist who tends to be more beta male and side more with women.
Right. I totally agree.
They feel lost. they feel lost. So, thank you for going against the grain and just doing what you do.
No, man, I appreciate it, man. I'm taking a risk. I take a risk doing this.
Take a big risk, brother.
I'll take a real big risk. That's why I tell you guys, in case they get rid of me, help me with the super chats, man, because they might be coming for me. But I do this, man, because I love the brotherhood. I've been commissioned, I believe I've been ordained by God to liberate Black men. It was in my heart to do this years ago. And I don't think I'm saying nothing that's inflammatory. I'm speaking to the issues that are impacting Black people in the Black community. I went to one of the best schools in the country, and I love my university, but my university did not change me. I had my mind before I went to college. So who you see is who I am. You can't indoctrinate me because my personality is too strong. It takes a very superior person to change who I am as a man. Who I am is who I am. I'm too fixed, partially because I'm a Leo, but I'm just fixed. You're not going to change me. I'm too old to be changed, man. And so, but if anybody did come for me, what are you coming for? I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just empowering Black men because this is very therapeutic. And so I do this because I love you guys, and that's why I tell you guys to support the channel. Thank you for everyone that's hit the one button and shared this content. I'm very grateful. Shout out again to Ms. Parker. I'm going to be on the show tonight with Security Boss Unsolicited. Her and I are going to have a conversation. And so real quick, also to the next brother, Supreme Cod, you came on the back end. But how was the show beneficial to you, brother?
To everything that I caught, this was actually really good, and I can tell that the conversation was very stimulating. That, and we need to have these conversations, because just being in silence, as you said before, suffering in silence doesn't help anybody. You just grow into madness. And I mean, this is something that's healthy for men to actually understand. And in fact, I mean, it's not like we have this information out there like that. Like, not a person can't just go on the street and then we can have this conversation randomly out of nowhere. It's like, this is a healthy space to have this conversation and enlighten a few people who really might not know. And from there, the building blocks can begin. That's what it takes. It just takes that conversation that is needed just to build and apply in real life, so that we could do better.
Right. And shout out also to the Antisocial Socialite podcast. Thank you, brother. Thank you before the billions. Thank you for all the good people that are listening, because Black men need to be liberated. When Black men are liberated, the world is liberated. But not only Black men, all men need to be liberated, because white men as well are going through the ravages of some of the same things that Black men are going through. And even though sometimes our fights have been different, we're still human at our core. We're still men at our core, and we still need support. Because this world is going through an evolution. And, Harold Melvin, the Blue Note, said it back in the 70s. They said the world don't get no better. And the world has not gotten better. It's gotten worse. And so I'm not the prognosticator of doom. I'm just the prognosticator of reality. And so, like I said, this has been a great show. I got another fire show coming up. I got some, oh my God, guys, I got some fire for your mind. Hold tight. I'm about to say, you guys ready? I'm about to say it. Fire. For your mind.
Yeah.
I'm about to ignite your synapses and your neurons in your mind. I'm going to enlighten you by more or less erasing those cognitive distortions. And so I got some fire shows coming up, so I need you guys to get ready. And so once again, guys, we're about to sign off. Anybody else need anything else to say? It's been a great show, man. I love you guys. I love the Ingram experience. Supreme Cod, you come on in the past, brother. And Ace, I want to see you more, man. I want you to cam up at some point. I love your insight, brother. You're very deep. I love your insight. You're very intelligent. You're well-read. And all the brothers on the panels are very intelligent. And your insight actually calibrates me mentally as a man. So this has been a great show. About to sign off, man. So, guys, I will see you guys tonight on Security Boss Unsolicited tonight. So, guys, check that out. And I got to go see some clients, man. Before
all right, brother. Well, I'll be there to see you tonight, man.
It's been a pleasure, man. Salute, panel. I'll see you guys, man.
Hey,
all
take
right,
care, brother.
All right. I'll be good, brother. All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. So once again, guys, Frederick Douglass once said that power never conceded to anything without a struggle. It never have, and it never will. Remember, guys, that there are 7 steps that a man must go through in order to become optimized in female psychology, and men standing on their principles as a man is paramount to the functioning of a man. This has been a great show. Again, guys, we're about to sign off. And like I said, guys, we're about to take it to the next level, man. Thank you for Superior Balls Unsolicited. And guys, please share the content. Once again, it's been a great show. And we're about to sign off. And I love you guys. And I will be seeing you later tonight. Be well.
Highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Any day could've been dead. High school price on my head. Paranoid lying in my bed. Pray to God they don't turn my shirt cherry. I was lost, didn't know me. Introduced myself to codeine. 6 months was a dope fiend. Philly didn't even know things. There was a low me. Swear to God it would've owed me. Everything you ever told me. Everything you ever showed me. I forgot it. Caused me drama. I used to stay on one. Now I changed on them. The highs with the lows. That's life these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Hit the highs with the lows. That's like these days. Bro chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. I just saw Jizzy got a plane. Guess that's what he meant when he said nothing was the same. Lately I've been grounded, energizing off the pain. Some things gon' change, I'm just soaking up the game. Through the mud, out the rain, like I remember all those same nights. Now I'm on top, no stage fright. Now I'm on go, no brake lights. Hit the pedal, hit the engine roar. No fear like a matador. Breaking trends and I'm making more. Going up, climbing ladders more. I can't be stopped. Now I do what I want. Real, no front. All the way to the top. Highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. The highs with the lows. That's like these days. World chained up, he on lockdown. Phone call 3 ways. I just pray that he find God now. It's no replay. On my way up to the top now. That's on me, ayy. Keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Go. Set it off. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it off. You living boring, I'm gonna set it off. Shooting, I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it off. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it off. Son of God, no, I am not son of man. Blessings keep falling, the fingers keep coming in. I got you, but just know I'm texting like Uncle Sam. Left to the bank, you know that I'm coming in. We don't do it for the bands though, we don't do it for the clout. Legacy on the line, so I'm moving in and out. Seen good ones turn top dog, greedy ones get knocked off. I keep looking at the bench like I could never not ball. Coach keep me in the game, Curry deadly with the range. I keep looking in the mirror like, who is he? I'm insane. Who am I? He insane. Guess I ain't the one to blame. What's done is done, won't change. Time to live up to my name. Real will be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I'm made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't lead out. I keep God first. I see evil when I converse. Not today, say. This how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shoot when I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. Told my baby, meet me at the bank. Told my mama, I'ma break the trend. Locked in, I'ma change the weight. Working for my baby's kids. Hard times couldn't make the rent. Working hard couldn't save a cent. Lonely nights, just me and God. Swear to him, always made the ends. Grab a paper, see the news. Hate coming by the tools. Walk a mile in my shoes. Something you can never do. Got my back against the wall. Bet I always pull through. Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you? Sending shots, I block 'em. Superman with the moves. Rock 'em, sock 'em, drop, pop 'em. Play to win, never lose. Run it up, I top 'em. Plate full, belly too. I hip hop or pop 'em. Anything I could do. The real won't be real, fake gon' fall. Took time with this here, I made for a while. No sleeping while I won't fall. No sleeping while I won't eat off. I keep God first. I see evil, I evil when I converse. Like today say, this how God works. Play my position, what is given with no concerns. Set it out. Top of the morning, I'm gonna set it out. You living boring, I'm gonna set it out. Shoot when I'm scoring, I'm gonna set it out. Like soldiers torn, I'm gonna set it out. I hit recorded drop, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding. Just out touring down in Charlotte like I play for Hornets. When I'm performing, never boring, now you can't afford it. Champagne Perrier, finished friends on my face. Looking like I'm from the deep, these no Cartiers. Pockets deep, 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 bro. I can make it in my seat, bro. Do you, I'm doing me, bro. Making noise, use a peep, bro. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. Neighborhood on the scene, neighborhood on the strip. Neighborhood be the name, neighborhood no crib. Neighborhood that's me, neighborhood that's Nick. Neighborhood do the dance, neighborhood do the dip. Okay, thought I'd never make it like no way. I'm the real deal, no role play. My days off, that's no days. No, I hustle hard, young rose. E be the shooter, that's cold case. Those on the deals, that's brose. Got no pay, you don't no say. Okay, this the news, tell them read it. Been the one since a fetus. Don't sleep on me, Tempur-Pedic. That's a no, no, no. Spending dope for no reason. Got a ball head, Mr. Cleaner. Heard the big bags overseas, then we gon' go, go, go. Whoa, I press the button and the doors go up like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. I press the button and the doors go up like. Whoa, that money clip us now, the new now looks like. Whoa, upgrade her diamonds, now her girlfriends are like. Whoa, 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 whoa. On my own, no fixer. I'm gon' ball, no picker. That I ate those, they live for. Talking on my back, go figure. Whole team eats from spitter. Never was the one to go flicker. No face, no case, no picture. Full plates, big steaks, my dinner. Flip that, Canal Street. Flip that, last week. Old money, this week. New racks, never buy none more. If I can't afford to gift wrap, stunning in your foreign car. You keep buying rental tags. Ew. Heard you roll the other lean, we are not the same. Couple thousand in my pocket, this pocket chip. Rubber bands on my arm, this is not for play. I put 20 on the crib, while you cop a chain. I know they hated to love it. You know I love when they hate it. Last year was living basic. Nah. Haters on the up. storm. You cannot swim with your chains on. I can see none with the lights off. Cap, you been the main one. Coolin' when I got my mains on. Show money.